All right. Welcome to the August 28th, 2023 Select Board meeting. We'll call this meeting to order at 7:03. And everybody's in person, so we don't have to do a roll call vote. We can get right to announcements. For individuals who would like to have additional audio support, BXB-TV has 6 personal wireless receivers that can be used to enhance the Grange Hall's audio experience. Please contact a member of the administrative staff prior to the start of the meeting. So if you're here, you just pop in and let us know. The Council on Aging September 2023 Buzz newsletter was sent out today. Seniors can look for it in their mailboxes in the next few days. You can also pick up a copy at the library or the town hall after September 1st. If you don't already get it in the mail and you'd like to, please contact Kim D to get put on the mailing list. Pfeiffer's Day is going to take place this Saturday, September 2nd at Flora Meadows on Stowe Road in Boxborough with the rain date of September 3rd. For more information, please visit the Minutemen's website. The Boxborough Museum will be open from 2 to 4 on Sunday, September 10th. The Office of Land Use and Permitting is hosting a public forum on goals to reduce our carbon footprint in Boxborough this Wednesday, August 30th at 7 p.m. right here in the Grange Room. Coffee and Chat with Kim is happening on Wednesday, August 30th at 10:30 a.m. at the Community Center. Special guest this month is Wendy Trinks, the Community Services Coordinator. Stop by for a free cup of coffee or tea, casual conversations, and any questions you might have for Kim and Wendy. The Freebie Full Market will be held on September 9th from 10:30 to noon across the Town Hall. The Boxborough Public Safety officials will hold a brief 9/11 remembrance ceremony on Monday, September 11th at 9:55 in front of the fire station. The Wellbeing Committee is going to hold an in-person meeting on September 21st from 8 to 9:30 in the Grange Room. I'm assuming that's in the morning. The committee will open it up for folks to say goodbye to Reverend Cindy with coffee and snacks. We're going to miss her. Her last sermon and day is September 24th. Seniors, join in on the fun at game day at the community center every Tuesday from 1 to 3:45. Learn to play Mexican trained dominoes or perhaps play another game of your choice and meet new friends. All right. And finally, if you have a concern about an item that's not listed on the agenda, please raise it during citizens input. While the board will be unable to discuss or deliberate on topics not posted on the agenda, necessary actions will be either forwarded to the appropriate operational department for action or posted on a future agenda for discussion by the board as appropriate. And thank you for participating and for your understanding. All right. Board and administrator comments and reports. We'll start with Mike.
Okay, I have 2 coming up on October 8th, which is a Sunday. The town will host a Diwali festival that is co-hosted by the Sergeant Memorial Library. And there'll be folks from town here, from neighboring Acton, as well as Littleton attending. Last year, there were over 1,000 participants, and the organizers of the event met with Chief and I and Library Director Pejon last week, and they invite all to attend. There will be food trucks, there will be activities for all ages, and it's for folks who would like to learn more about the culture. And there'll be music, I guess live entertainment. It sounds like a great event. It's from noon to 4, October 8th, Sunday at the library. And there will be parking allowed at Town Hall, at the library, and they're pursuing parking at the school as well. And then if there is there a need for overflow parking, we're looking at possibly Flora Meadows and working on shuttle setup for that. So that should be a great event.
1,000 people. Wow.
That was last year.
That's 20% of our population.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it was, but it was 3 communities participating.
Wow.
And Boxborough hosted it. And the library was the co-host of the event. And they're expecting a much larger turnout because last year was the very first year. So they're planning, they're looking at more transportation, more parking.
Nice.
But it sounds like.
Did anybody here go?
Yeah.
Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was good.
All right.
Yeah, they didn't have parking, and I think they had like the veterinary hospital, that one, they had to use that parking last minute.
Wow.
And they had like a bunch of people like coordinating where to send people to park. It was
it sounds like there was 3 times the expected attendance from what they expected last year.
That's
So
awesome.
they expect to far exceed it this year.
Okay.
So with what they learned last year, they're working early to get the parking, the transportation, and so forth. But it sounds like a great event, and it's it is an Indian festival, but I'm reminded it's not just for the Indian community; it's for the entire community. So anyone that wants to come out, enjoy. They said they'll have all kinds of food. If Indian food is your thing, great. If hot dogs and hamburgers are your thing, they're gonna have that sort of stuff and barbecue. They said it's really for all ages, all cultural backgrounds, and it sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. That's
They
a
had
fun
little
one.
stalls with like little things that they were selling.
Uh-huh.
So you can buy, it's not a lot of the darn stuff. It was good.
All right, cool.
All right, so just wanted to, so for my update, just wanted to share about 2 things. First one actually is Citizens Academy. The schedule is out for this program. So we've started advertising. We advertised in the school district last week, but Citizens Academy is kicking off on Wednesday, September 13th. And it will be going all the way to December 11th for the graduation. We're taking in people who want to be participants. We've actually gotten a few emails today from this past week for students who want to enroll. Their parents contacted me about that.
Nice.
And what we've advertised is ages 16 and up who want to participate, who want to be a part of this program. One thing I actually wanted to bring to the board today about this program is we need a representative to do the first session on the 13th on behalf of the select board to be a part of the introduction and the overview for Boxborough. So typically how that is the town administrator's office, a member of the select board will present on behalf of the select board. And then also we're going to have Littleton Cable Television to be a part of that session as well, just to kick off the program.
Would anybody like to do it? You're all looking at me.
And it's, well, that's, and I have an example of, I have an example PowerPoint too, for anybody who needs some inspiration on what they want to do as far as their presentation for the select board. So I'll be able to help you out.
Okay. I have no trouble talking. We all know that. But if anybody else would like to do it, I don't want to step on anybody's toes.
No, I think you'd be like, do it. But
Well,
actually, I want to sign up to be in there because there's still a lot of stuff that I can learn, but I don't want to get up there and pretend I know all about the.
Oh, I
select
don't
board.
know about it
I'm the freshman, yeah, so.
And Mike actually told me earlier, so I added you to the list for participants.
All right. Yeah, I can help.
One other announcement.
Sure.
So this afternoon at about 2:00, our police and fire departments were involved in a very serious accident response. They went out to 369 Codman Hill Road to Rooftop Recycling, where there was an industrial accident. Our ambulance transported a man over to the Regency, where the person was medevac helicopter transported to the hospital. At the hospital, he did die at the hospital. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the folks over at Rooftop Recycling, and especially to the family and friends of the deceased. I want to give a shout out to our first responders who did a wonderful job. They did their part. They were there. They provided for a safe scene. They evacuated, provided medical care. But unfortunately, the person did die when they got to the hospital. So I just want to let the community know that this has happened. It's a sad day in Boxborough. The deceased is not a resident here, but is a member of one of our resident businesses, so one of our own. So I just want to let folks know about that. So please send your thoughts and prayers out to this person's family.
Let's have a moment of silence, not only for the man who passed away, but his family, the people that took care of him, that had to witness it and are probably living with it right now. So let's just take a minute. All right, thank you. And thank you, Chief. I'm sure You guys were right there in it too, huh? Okay, all right, let's get back on track. Okay. Does anybody else on the board have any comments or reports? No, all right. All right, public input. Anybody here from the public who has anything to say today? Anything you want to bring to us? Anyone on Zoom have anything they want to pop in with at the moment? No hands up? Okay. All right, let's move on to approval of the minutes. We're going to take a look at the regular session minutes from August 7th, 2023. Thank you, Kelly, for getting them all typed up and out to us. Any comments on it?
I have one thing that I'd like to see added, and that's the results of the assignments. I think from the previous minutes or agenda, it was what was there, but the results of what we decided during the meeting wasn't included in there. So it would be helpful to attach those to the minutes.
We can do that.
Okay, certainly.
Anybody else have anything else they want to add or amend? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes with the amendments.
Seconded.
All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, those minutes are approved. Okay, 7:15. Oh, look at us. We are a minute early. That never happens. Big deal. So we do have to wait till 7:15, so. Anybody want, well, 7:14. Oh, I'm looking at the thing up there. All right. God forbid I break a rule. So would you guys like to introduce yourselves?
Good evening.
Hello.
Thank you for having us.
We're excited to have you here.
Oh, you're a blessing. Thank you.
Tell us all about you.
My name is Gardy DeGulo. I'm partner, owner, operator of Craft Food Halls. We currently have 10 locations. Been blessed with 10 locations. My past is really quick. I mean, started with Cheesecake Factory, involved in about 60 or 61 openings. Reason why it's 60 or 61 is because one of them kind of opened.
COVID? Is that a COVID opening? They're very different than a cold opening. Mm.
And then was able to separate with them, went to Germany, opened my software company, was able to sell that, come back and open and partner with Craft Food Halls. It's been a blessing ever since.
Exciting.
We're super excited about this project, but I'll give it to Courtney to introduce herself as well.
Yeah.
So my name is Courtney Steves. I've been with the company for about 2.5 years. I've been in the restaurant industry for about 10, maybe more. I've worked everything from general manager, bartender, you name it, I've done it. And I have a love for the company and for the restaurant industry.
Excellent. So tell us what you're doing over on the Campanelli property.
Oh, this
I know we put a job
Magic
packet,
face.
and anybody that wants to see the packet can go online, Selectmen's agenda. There are pages and pages. But so give us the 30-second overview of what you're going to be doing.
All right, so to really encapsulate a lot of what's happening, so again, we have 10 locations. We're very involved in the community, so it's a lot about impact and getting everybody ready to enjoy the spaces, right? So I sit on a bunch of boards, American Diabetes Association, Tourism Committee for Lexington, so on and so forth, right? So the space will feel that. And my partner, Doug, he's extraordinary at just designing pieces, and we call them vibe zones to make everybody feel comfortable. Think back Starbucks, when Starbucks used to be that place where you can hang out for a while. It's not about turning tables. It's not about anything like that. It's for people to come in and work, play, in the sense that there are ping pong tables, shuffleboard tables. It's about 7,000 square feet inside, about 3,200 outside. And really you just choose your location, sit down and have a great time. Right. You see the transition between COVID was fun. But people have come in and really use it as their home office. A lot more than we envisioned, right? And so people will come in, if we're opening for breakfast, for example, some locations open up at 7 a.m. and they'll sit there and really throughout their business day, just because they feel comfortable. We input sound and smells and things like that, just to make sure it's comfortable for everyone. And so when you're looking into the space, if you kind of go from section to section, there are vibe zones that make you feel comfortable. There are vibe zones that give you a lot of energy. There are vibe zones that are designed to help you stimulate your mind, for example. And all that is done with great food as well, right? Our sous vide process is something to enhance yourself, because in the sous vide technique, if everybody's familiar with sous vide, right?
Fancy pants sous vide. That's a guy thing. It's sous vide is a guy thing.
It's underwater, but it's vacuum sealed, right? It retains all its flavors. It's temperature controlled cooking. We're all familiar with contact cooking. When you're on a grill or anything like that, it drips, right? You're losing all the flavors. You're losing all that rendering. But in sous vide, you can keep it all in the back, right? And so it retains a lot of the flavors that you want, but also you don't have to cook with an abundance of oil or fat to make it taste good, right? And then we have our vessel concept. So 3 concepts: sous viderie as a sous vide mainly.
Are people doing their own sous vide, or you're cooking sous vide?
We're doing
delivered?
it. We're doing it.
I'm like, am I getting my own sous vide?
That would be complex because it takes like 2 hours to get everything done.
That's an idea for you.
I
Okay,
appreciate
yeah,
that.
yeah, okay.
Then we have vessel that focuses on gut health. So we use functional medicine as well as Ayurveda. Same place where yoga came from. So if you're going to go back thousands of years to really understand your body, that's how you're going to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Third concept is our Project X. It's our baby. Best pizza you're ever going to have. It has fantastic wings, so on and so forth, right?
Sal's is going to be competing with me.
Let's go west. But that's how we do it. But then we bring the community in. I mean, we do all kinds of sponsorships. Again, I sit on the ADA, so we do a lot with the ADA. Big Brother, Big Sister, Boys and Girls Clubs. Anybody can really come in and ask for the space. I mean, we give a lot more probably than we should, but it really helps bolster the community to do so. And then we have our natural events. So everything from, so we have quarterly events and then everything in between. So holiday parties and things like that. So it becomes a real strong activation from just the regular community as well as the business folks and anybody in between.
So anybody can go. It's not just for the employees of our campus.
That is correct. That is correct.
Wow. All right. Anything else you want us to know?
Anything you want to ask?
Oh, we have a whole list of questions. I'm going to just pass it right down.
So I do have a question.
Yes, sir.
For the sustainability. Yeah, okay, sustainability. I know sous vide uses a lot of plastic bags.
Yes, sir.
So, and I know like the bags are also thicker than most other ones because if you use thin ones.
Do you have a sous vide, Wes?
I have like 5.
Let's go west.
Go ahead.
And at like higher temperatures, you just thicker plastic, and that's not necessarily like a sustainable practice, I guess. Have you guys explored some of the other, like, I know some of the useful ones, that's more of a pain in the ass. Sorry. Operationally, it's not necessarily sterile and sanitary, and I know the medium, like they're still developing a bit, I guess. And
Yes,
so
sir.
as those come out, like, will you guys be looking at those? Because Foxborough did just become a green community. Not that they're interrelated,
Yes, sir.
but that's, I guess, more of my question.
No, that's a powerful question, sir. Obviously, COVID put a massive hindrance in a lot of our developmental plans, internal development plans. But yes, as we continue, for example, all of our things are compostable. Everything you touch in craft food halls is compostable. Obviously, the napkins, that's probably the easiest that should be compostable. But also our knives, our forks, and everything like that, our to-go packaging, everything is compostable. So we've already made that step, but we want to do better, obviously. But it's going to take a little bit of time. Thank you, sir.
So I want to jump in. I'm sorry.
Take a motion to open the formal hearing. The public hearing.
Oh, I didn't open the hearing. You're right. Is it in here? All right.
I may have missed it by not putting it in that way.
Okay, I just follow along whenever's in here. All right. So, can I retroactively open the hearing or I have to open it now?
You can open it now.
Okay, then I'm going to open the hearing at 7:22 p.m. Sorry. Hearing open. You want me to say anything else?
Just
Motion.
just take a vote.
All in favor of opening the hearing?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we are officially open now.
I second that.
Oh, excellent. We're all good. We're all good. I got all excited. So I do want to point out, though, you have talked a lot about the food, but you're actually here for your alcoholic beverage license. So let's kind of move back to that, because I believe, are they going to be back further? Or they go to Board of Health for the other one?
They'll be eventually coming to you for a common victual license. But
Yes,
they're just here for the alcohol license.
that is correct.
Yeah, so why don't we scooch back over to that? Tell us a little bit more about how you operate your alcohol beverage component of it.
That's an exciting piece.
All right, bring it on.
It's just that the lifeblood is the food. And when you're talking about the experiences that you're going through, the lifeblood is really around the food. And, you know, the liquor is necessary for two reasons. Obviously, it's part of our culture and society, but also it helps the bottom line, right? And so that's the kind of functionality. The safety piece of it is pretty straightforward. It's a lot safer than a regular bar. You know, typical bar, whether you're in Fenway or in TD Garden area, if you're in TD Garden and if you're in Fenway or you're in Gillette, 2 at a time, right? They'll hand it to you and hopefully, you know, you hand it off and you come back and the line isn't as long as it was when you started. But if you're outside of Fenway or outside of Gillette or anything like that, you're going to order a pina colada, you're going to order a martini, you're going to order a couple of this, a couple of that. They're going to hand you 16 Bud Lights and you're going to walk away, right? And that's not the case when you're dealing with a regulated beer wall. The beer wall experience is pretty straightforward. You're going to go ahead and give your ID, and it's only one card per person. So it's RFID technology, same technology that's used in a hotel card. And so you give your ID, and then you retain the RFID card for the length of your experience. And so it stops at 32 ounces. Again, that 2 beer limit. If you're dealing with another alcohol, whether it's liquor or wine, there's a stronger limiter, obviously, because it has a stronger ABV.
I don't get 32 ounces of Grey Goose?
No, that would be crazy. Right? And so once you reach that 32-ounce limit on the beer side, you're going to have to then return to anyone with authority on the property. They're going to have a conversation with you because that's the only way we'll understand. And obviously there's an extra preventative measure when you're able to look at the time that the card was made to understand, have they really ingested 32 ounces of liquor in or 32 ounces of beer in 2 minutes? And so then the tip certified team member can make a judgment call in that respect. But typically people are normal, 32 ounces in the responsible time, then we can go ahead and reactivate that card for you at that moment for another 32 or limited aspect.
So the typical Friday night, how many personnel would you have?
Typical, it's a little bit different.
Half capacity or half capacity. How many people are there, tip certified, managing? Because that's a huge concern for us.
Right.
We have a lot of kids in town.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we Waltham does too. We have,
You
we
have
have,
more than we do.
yeah, we have a lot. I would say 50% more just because of the way they're just the proximity is just insane. Yeah. We have Bentley. I mean, it's insane.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, it depends on, you said a typical Friday night. Our associates nights are not Fridays.
Really?
Funny enough.
Okay.
It's actually Wednesdays.
Okay. We'll be here.
I'm dead.
I guess.
Good to know.
But,
Okay, so all right, do you have what's your formula for knowing how many staff you need to have to be able to manage this piece of it?
Yeah.
Because this is something new to me. I've never experienced it. But
Yeah.
I'm sure other cooler people have.
So it operates very similar. I mean, very similar to how a bar would operate, right? So you're typically going to want, depending on how you build your bar. In this case, we built it accordingly. So you'll have anywhere between, peak hours, 4 bartenders and 3 managers on.
Okay.
And then outside of the 4 bartenders, you have roamers. We can call them ambassadors, is how we call them inside. And so they'll check. Do you need to re-up the card, or do you need to stop? Do you need whatever it is? But you have active people roaming around the space, as well as stagnant bartenders and the management team as well.
Chief, have you had experience with this kind of thing where you were?
I actually do. I have.
As a consumer or as a police officer?
Actually, when I first came to Foxborough, my first few months, I was, I'm from Connecticut originally, and I was staying in Waltham, and the building right behind the hotel I was staying at was the Kraft.
Oh, you're a blessing. Kudos.
No way.
So I went there for dinner many times my first few months in Boxborough after I got out of work. and I would walk over there and get dinner sometime. Food was very good.
Well, you're a blessing, sir.
All
Thank you, sir.
right.
And
So you saw in action how
I
they
saw it
manage
in
the kids
action.
from Bentley or whatnot.
yeah, it was, I would usually get there later, leaving work because I was
Mm.
always working. And it was very well run. I thought it was very well run. The food was good. Never saw anything
Untoward.
inappropriate. I mean, people were well behaved. It was never super busy, but it was great around like the holidays even. There were holiday parties in the back room. It was I think it's going to be a great thing for town here. I really do. When I heard, I was really excited. And I know you guys are here for to deal with the permitting and whatnot, but as far as the establishment itself, I only had really positive things to say as a consumer.
So you're a
Aren't you
blessing.
lucky? Did you plant him?
Yeah.
He's a blessing. I mean, this type of stuff will bring tears to our eyes. We work so hard. Our company policy is you don't have to like anyone, you have to love everyone. And so when we bring in our team, because again, the restaurant industry has been broken for so long, like 400 years. And you think about restoration, and when people come from the backgrounds that they come from and they come in and they're loved and appreciated, we deal with financial management, we deal with personal management, and that's supposed to come through to our guests. That's supposed to come through, and you're supposed to see smiles. You're supposed to understand it through our food and our beverages. And you're a blessing. Thank you very much. That's really touching. Thank you.
All right. Like I said, we do have a whole bunch of questions here, but I wanted to spread it out.
So I was also at the Waltham facility for a birthday party. It was a 2-year-old birthday party, and it came off exceptionally well. And so I agree with what the chief was saying. But I still, that one of my question is going to be, because I saw that how that worked, but I didn't see a lot of people around. So you're saying that there's at least 3 people that are floating, or there's the manager plus a couple.
So Waltham's a little bit different because Waltham doesn't have a traditional bar, right? So if you remember the layout when you walk in, it has a corner of small bar, so it doesn't require as many people. All the people are focused when you walk in, right? It's a long walk in.
Yeah.
So everybody on the line is actually the responsible party is looking outward. And so when you increase the volume, then you're going to bring more responsible people in. It's just that the way that this is built, it requires more team members. And so when you're managing, a kid birthday party, for example, you're going to think that about 60% of the personnel the guests that are going to be there are kids. So you don't need to really ramp up the amount of team members in that experience.
Okay, yeah, but there are plenty of parents that like this. So it was an interesting concept, putting getting the card and putting that in there and pouring it and watching it tick on up. And the beer was excellent. I'll say that as well. But I do. So would you be hiring local people? Would you try to hire people from Boxborough and Harvard and Stowe and Livingston?
We're actually discussing this actually a lot because we have a lot of people on our team that's from this area. They travel from out here to come work for us for different reasons. And obviously we're very close to Marlborough. We have a massive operation in Marlborough. And so, yes, the answer is yes, because it's so easy.
Okay. All right.
Will you do any kind of job fair or anything to invite?
No, we don't typically need to. Our word of mouth is pretty serious just because, we do unlimited vacation for our salary team members. We have 4 weeks. So one vacation.
You guys have jobs?
We pay 100% health insurance, dental and vision, just because, again, for our policies, this restoration is important. So we want to make sure you have a life balance, not a work-life balance.
So we also like to support the local businesses.
Yes, sir.
And we have business here that makes cider. Hard cider. So is that something you could consider selling some of the local business here?
They've gone through all the regulatory standards. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't know if you had agreements, you got to buy all of your beers and wines and cider from particular vendors.
No, so we are very partnership oriented.
Okay.
Which just means that if you're a good person, we're going to do business.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so if they also have all the normal things to back up their existence, then yes.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that you were aware that Pony Shack was here in town. Did you want to say something?
I was just gonna say, I just want to make sure we're making clear that this is not contingent on doing business with local.
Absolutely
no,
not.
no.
Absolutely not.
I didn't expect that at all,
Yeah.
but we do prefer that.
Okay, all right, yeah, no, I'll pass it.
Yeah, one of the questions here is that, were there any staff or company compliance hearings or violations in the past?
No,
Like in the recent past?
no. We have we've been very blessed with extraordinary people and extraordinary guests. It's been very rare that we've had to let guests go, as we can say. No, ma'am, no.
So tell us, since you're here for your alcohol license, what are your service hours? Like, when does the bar open? Like, can I have a beer at 8 in the morning when my 2-year-old's having a blueberry muffin, or I don't have?
So our hours of operation will be 7 a.m. to midnight, but our beverage service, like beer, liquor, would be from 11 a.m. to midnight.
Okay,
Why 11?
lunch.
Well,
People that have an
I'm
early
wondering
lunch?
Because like you go over to like the farmer's daughter in Sudbury and you can get like a Bloody Mary or mimosa there. And so why do you want to wait until? And not that I'm saying like that's a bad thing, but like that's also a nice thing over there.
Well, brunch times are usually right if you're going. So Farmers Yard is a very special concept. I'm very fond of what they've done. But it's a little bit different, right? So they go, the mother-daughter dates are there, you know, and stuff like that. We're more geared to a brunch environment. So that's the way. And if any alterations would be needed, then we'll notify everyone. But that's typically the way that we operate.
Okay. When are you opening, by the way? What's your estimated opening date?
Yes.
Okay.
No, we're aiming for December,
Yeah,
winter.
Try to be before the holidays. Do
It would be extraordinary if we can.
you know what have you even told anyone the address yet, where you are?
500 people book. Really?
Well, not for anybody who might be watching.
No, I know.
People actually watch
It's
this.
just a cool idea.
It's very simple. So, okay. Is there going to be outdoor service or outdoor dining areas?
Yes, about 3,000 square feet, 3,200 square feet.
Mhm.
It's epic there, because again, when you're able to be outdoors, it just feels different. Everybody acts different. It's obviously.
So are there fire pits or are there
Fire
tiki
pits.
torches? What do you got?
Yeah, so tiki torches. No, that's cool. There's a cool visual.
Pour the oil in, light it, something like that.
String lighting,
Lighting.
adds wonderful ambiance. It makes everybody feel so great. And wonderful plush outdoor seating. Person who chooses our seating, he's a genius. But the outdoor seating is fantastic. And then yes, fire pits and those things. And then you have a few outdoor games and components, and then music as well. The way that the space is divided is you can have, if you're having a kid birthday party outside, you can have kid birthday party music outside, and then different music inside as well.
Awesome. I think you actually hit all of our questions. Mike, do you have any questions for him?
I have a couple. So I do have some experience with, not with your restaurant. I look forward to visiting and checking it out. But I do have experience from my last community with the beer wall concept. We had a couple restaurants with that came to us. In fact, one of them, they proposed to us when they came, as you are this evening, for an all alcohol license. They also were telling us what they were doing for entertainment, and it was hatchet throwing, which is pretty scary, serving liquor and throwing hatchets.
Yeah.
But actually, you know, our police chief and some of our other folks went and observed what they were doing in another community. And the beer wall was a very safe concept. I mean, it's regulated, it was monitored. So I'm very comfortable with that concept. One of my questions, I guess, is, you know, how many taps do you have on the wall? You said you have 3 bartenders plus some other ambassadors.
Mhm.
So how many taps would there be on the wall, and who would be watching those taps? And then where is that in proximity to where people are paying?
So the payment happens at the bar, if you want a receipt, but you have stations in which you can drop your cards and then just go ahead and you're done. Just because the tip concept, because we pay more than just a living wage, and so we don't really require tips for anybody. And so in terms of the how many taps conversation, it's 30 taps. And you have designated areas for like the lawnmower beers if you're a Bud Light type of drinker, stretching up to the IPAs and such. And then you have a couple of wine taps, and so on and so forth. The idea of who's watching, everybody's vigilant, everybody's responsible, but the primary obviously is with the management, the ambassadors who are roamers, and then you have the bartenders as well as the senior members. Typically in the hierarchy of things, the bartenders are right below the management team. So they're the ones really engaged in making sure everybody is taken care of, but also acting accordingly.
Do you want to explain tip certification since you kind of went?
Yes, this is our manager on record, to certification expert and all that stuff.
For about 6 years now, I've been tip certified.
Do you want to tell people what that is?
Yeah.
I bartended, so I know what it is. But tell-
Yeah, so it's just a certification that just pretty much I took a class on it, but not everybody takes the class. Some people just take the test. So it just kind of walks you through on how you would shut off a guest, how to interact with guests, and just the entire how to identify if a guest is overly intoxicated, all that stuff.
Yeah, it sets all the guidelines on limiters. What's the responsible serving amount for people this size versus people this size and everything like that. It's a great education piece just for normal common people, because you should know your alcohol intake levels and you should be responsible in drinking.
So is that a mandatory certification for all the servers or just for the management team?
Oh no, for everybody.
Perfect, okay.
Everybody in the building, because
Great,
unless you're just food,
Mhm.
but anybody in the building has to be certified.
great, great. Does anybody, I'm sorry, Mike,
I had one other follow-up question. You were asking about the outdoor area. You said it's about 3,000 square feet.
Mhm.
It sounds really neat. And when Russell gave us a tour many months back of, the proposed area, it looked like the perfect area. My question is, where you're going to be serving alcohol or people bringing alcohol to that outdoor area? No alcohol out there?
I'm sorry. You made it sound like they could bring their own. No, they couldn't.
oh, can you go in for?
Yes.
I was
I'm
gonna say-
assuming they're going to be able to get their beverage and then take
And
it
then
to
sit
the
outside.
outside.
Yes.
What's the containment, like the physical containment for that 3,000 square foot area? In other words, so people can't come in with or depart with,
Right.
something.
So there are natural barriers, and then obviously massive signage that says no alcohol beyond this point. But it's much like
What's a
most
natural
tablets.
barrier, a bush?
Is it bushes and
Combination of factors.
Yeah.
Basically, Russell Dion, Campanelli, owner of the property. There's a series of fences, dense vegetation, brick walls, and then there's a few open areas which the operator will need to monitor.
for natural egress purposes?
Right. So for those egress areas, I think that ABC is going to require some sort of gate or a person there so that people can't depart with a beverage that they've purposed. That's something you're going to want to, demonstrate to the
Yes, sir.
to the building commissioner, and also assure the board that, no alcoholic beverages will be leaving the premises.
Yes, sir. In my most recent experience, for example, stretching also back to the 2000s, they haven't required a gate. They have required massive signage, really neon in your face signage that says no alcohol beyond this point. And because everything looks like any place that looks like an egress. Case you can take would be our Boston location, in which it's actually the biggest footprint of allowed alcohol in Boston, because it's 3 levels and it opens out into a parking lot and into a park. It's pretty amazing. But all what they required was signage. That's all they needed. And that's the old Boston Globe building, if you want to look it up, in Boston.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Any other questions? Anybody on Zoom want to chime in? All right, I don't see any hands. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Okay.
Becky Neville, Middle Road for the hearing. Are you ADA compliant?
We are very ADA.
So a great meeting location because it's ADA compliant. So think about how much more enjoyable public meetings could be if we could have them there and you could have a drink. And
Can I give you a high five?
Plants.
All right, would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the application for Fast Food Hall, 500 pieces of road for Food Hall, 500 pieces of road LLC, doing business as Fast Food Hall for all alcoholic beverage license at 500 Beaver Brook Road, Foxborough, Massachusetts, 01709, presented.
Is there,
Second.
perfect. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Wes, you want to just go on a roll?
Sure, I move to prorate the all alcoholic license holder fee to $420 per month for $5,000 annually.
Second.
Any further discussion or any questions about what that is? All right, all in favor? Please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that carries unanimously. Excellent.
I make a motion to adjourn the public hearing at the meeting time of 7:43.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you for coming in tonight and giving us a wonderful presentation.
You're a blessing, guys. Thank you so much.
Oh,
Nice
we're
to meet
really
you.
excited to have you.
Thank you very
Really
much.
excited.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Your beard is extraordinary.
Oh, wow. I'm a blessing. You're extraordinary. Yeah. Okay, new business. We have the introduction of a new employee. Chief, do you want to do that?
Sure. Alex Buchesney, I'm not sure if he's on. He was invited, but he was not working today. But I will just say a few quick words. He came to us from Littleton as worked in the dispatch center there, and he started as a part-time dispatcher, and we quickly were able to move him over to full-time, and he has been terrific. He came to us already certified, but he went through our training program relatively quickly. He's already been very helpful picking up numerous extra shifts because we are still shorthanded sometimes. And he's a pleasure to work with, gets along with everybody, and we are very fortunate to have Alex working in our dispatch center. So happy to have him.
All right.
The proud father of a beautiful little 4-year-old girl as well. So
Oh,
I was able to meet her. Yeah.
very fun. Very fun. Awesome. All right. Well, does he go by Alex or Alexander? What's he do?
Alex.
Alex. Well,
Alex.
welcome, Alex. We're happy to have you.
Welcome.
Yeah. All right. Next, we have an appointment. Ann McNeese has asked to be appointed to the Wellbeing Committee. Ann, are you on Zoom? No. Well, I will speak for her then. Ann is a longtime volunteer, dedicated to the town, has put many, many hours in, very active, council on aging, right? No, library, very active. Personnel board. I was gonna say, she's got a list about this long of all the things she's done in town. She did submit all of the paperwork, and if anybody doesn't have an objection, I'm gonna move to appoint her. We're good. I move to appoint Ann McNeese to the Wellbeing Committee with a term ending June 30th, 2026. Any further discussion or questions or anything? Zoomers? Zoomers are good. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Welcome, Ann, to yet another committee. Yeah. All right. So Bill Sutcliffe has come forward to be appointed to the Cemetery Commission. Bill, are you here? Oh, come on. I don't get to say what's your favorite thing about Foxborough. That's probably why nobody's here. Again, Bill lived in town for a very long time, has been on the cemetery committee, done lots of great things for the town, stays on top of everything. So yeah, thank you for volunteering for yet another session. Any questions or comments? All right. I move to appoint Bill Sutcliffe to the Cemetery Commission with a term ending June 30th, 2026.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. You're in, Bill. Okay. Next, amending the Economic Development Committee charge. And I did see Rich Guzardi looking at the Zoom. He is the current chairman of the EDC. Rich, do you want to present this and tell us why you're here?
Sure, happy to do that.
Full
Can you hear?
disclosure, I'm on the board too, but I can't be the boss of everything.
Thank you. So I sent in a requested modification to the charge. So the charge was originally set out probably about 6 years ago. It's
Hey,
very,
Rich, hold on a minute. Can everybody hear?
Not well.
Hey, Kirby, can you turn it up a little? Or is it on Rich's end? Sorry.
Why are you apologizing now?
Oh, because that's what I do.
I'll try with my headset. Maybe that helps. I don't know if that's any better.
That's way better.
Okay. So the charge was set out about 6 or 7 years ago. If you're hearing me, Kristen, yes. It was very specific around having 7 to 9 members.
Hold on, Rich. Totally fine. All right, talk loud, Rich.
So it was originally set out as requiring or prescribing 7 to 9 members. And it went through the detail of describing the makeup of the committee to include a liaison from the select board, a member from the planning board, a member from the FinCom, and then 4 to 5 members from the community at large. The fundamental change that I'm proposing to make is to reduce, can you hear me okay, Kristen?
Yeah, much better now. Thank you.
Okay. The fundamental change I'm proposing to make is to reduce the membership from 7 to 9 to 5 to 7. And what that would do is, number one, it would match what the current membership is. And 2, it would match and sort of work within what we have experienced over the life of the committee, which at one time we had 7 members, and that might have been for a period of 12 months. We've never had more than 7. And so I just think that, and the big challenge we have is with 7 members working through the clerk and getting a read from the state in terms of how our bylaw is written and how the charge is written. Our quorum is based on the 7 members. So we now need to have 4 people show up for a quorum on a 5-member board. Mm-hmm. So fundamentally, number one is I'd like to change the makeup to include a 5 to 7 membership. Okay, so that's the first thing. The second item is that the charge calls out a member of the select board, a member of the FinCom, member of the planning board, and it doesn't really talk, well, I guess it talks about voting members, and then it says there'll be a liaison from the select board. The FinCom does not have a voting member on it. Based on the FinCom bylaw, there will be no voting member. So we do have a member of the FinCom on, and that person is not a voting member, and that person's an advisory member or a ex officio member, whatever you want to call it, and that's fine. But originally, the charge envisioned that there'd be a voting member of the FinCom, and there isn't. So that actually further constrains the number of people that would be on the board voting. The select board has been a liaison member, and that's fine. Kristen, Madam Chair, are a voting member on the EDC, and so so that's really the first question: is why shouldn't there be a voting member from the select board? So that the recommendation is to go ahead and allow for and have a voting member of the select board. The next change is it says that there shall be 1 member from the planning board. Currently, there are 2 members from the planning board on the EDC. And so that may or may not be long-term the viable or effective, but today that's what we have. So my change is really getting to not prescribe specific numbers, but to just say that there needs to be representation from these committees, and let the select board make the recommendations and bring people onto the committees based on the recommendations that are coming forward from the EDC, so that we can ensure that we've got participation and we have the 5 to 7 members on a quorum. So those are the 2 fundamental changes. And I think I submitted, and Michael included in the packet, a markup. But by the way, if the FinCom, if their charter does not allow for a voting member, then we can certainly, say that as such. But I think the question this board has to decide for me is, number one, going to 5 to 7. Number 2, do you want a select board member as a voting member? And number 3, are we good with multiple members from different committees? The other thing I'll say is a self-advertisement here for our committee. We really need to get more volunteers engaged and participating. And, we can do a better job on the EDC in doing that, but also could use the help of the select board and other committees to really get the word out. There's a lot of really exciting things we're doing as part of the EDC. So we have a new grant program that we just launched using our ARPA money. We actually have an applicant who And there will be, I anticipate, other applicants, and we owe these people a quick response. So I can't be canceling meetings because I don't have a quorum. We are about ready to go out to RFP on bringing a consultant in for the grant that we won for town center revitalization. So that's happening. And that'll be in cooperation with, the planning board and other, critical board, all the other boards in town. That'll be a collaborative effort. And then we're talking about doing business center pop-ups. So there's a lot of activity, and Alec can comment specifically on kind of some of that effort. But it does require engagement. It does require we have quorums, and it requires we have people who are really interested in the topics and willing to engage. So that's my sort of spiel on that.
So you have to make sure that you engage with Citizens Academy because it's true. We are now doing some really fun and exciting things. We moved past the paperwork and the grant writing and all that. And now we actually have things to do. So definitely make sure you're part of that, Rich. I'm pointing at Rajana. So, okay. So just to recap, what I heard you saying is you want to change the charter to be 5 to 7 members of the EDC, not all of whom will be voting members. Is that what I heard?
Yes. And I think that we could carve out the FinCom as an additional member. So we would have 5 to 7 voting members, because based on the FinCom bylaw, I think we should make that change. So it would be 5 to 7 voting members. Today it says 7 to 9 voting members.
But FinCom can't vote.
Correct.
They're not allowed to vote.
They would not count towards the quorum.
No, if they're a member, they could count towards the quorum, right? But they can't. Okay, Maria from the FinCom happens to be here, so help us help. Rich.
So the FinCom is a liaison to the EDC.
Okay.
And so I wrote the charge 6 years ago when I was on the select board, and not a member, and the FinCom doesn't want to be a member. We don't want to be a voting member. We don't want to change the bylaw. So we are strictly a liaison. To be clear, because Rich said an advisory member, we're not a member of the committee. But in the charge, it does specifically say, I think it says liaison. It may say member. If it says members, then that was my bad 6 years ago. It should say liaison. So just to be clear.
It's in red. I think it says 1 member. The one in red that is.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. So remember, it wasn't, it originally, yes, she's right. Originally, there was 1 member of the FinCom.
Right.
Correct.
And so that should really be more of, it's a liaison position. We are not a member of that committee, voting or non-voting. We are only a member of a very small number of committees. And whether the bylaw allows it or not, I think that makes sense from trying to remain independent and give our opinions, especially when articles goes to town meeting, not having us on every committee makes sense.
So there's no conflict there.
There's no
as you're
conflict,
making
right.
recommendations to the town.
Right. So, again, so it's a liaison. And so if it says member, I actually would like to change that, if Rich is okay with it, to liaison.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Rich?
and that's why Chris and I was saying we could go to the 5 to 7 voting members and then specify that the FinCom will participate as a liaison.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. That works for me.
2 hands up.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from the board?
I just want to know, like, Rich, what are your thoughts? I mean, I want to hear the pros and the cons of like the select board members being able to vote and other planning board members being able to vote in terms of the conflict of interest. So, do you want to give your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So the EDC is not a regulatory board, right? It's a board that was stood up by the select board to work in the community and work across other boards and committees. It's natural that we're going to have that connection to other boards and committees. Planning is particularly important because it's closely intertwined. And in fact, the charge that's written there today says that one of the criteria for the other 4 to 5 members of the community, one of the criteria is somebody who has experience in planning and development. So it would not be natural to see how, somebody from the planning board would be aligned to it. I guess I don't see it as a conflict. I think there's plenty of examples where multiple members of boards have sat on other boards. And it's not a regulatory board. So that's kind of how we viewed it. I think that if there was a conflict item that came up, I can tell you that as a member of the planning board, I would not participate in that vote on the EDC because my priority is serving as an elected member of the planning board. But that would be managed on a case by case. I'm really having a hard time thinking of specific things we voted on, where that would come into play. But if it did, I would recuse myself from the EDC. And then frankly, that puts additional strain on the quorum point we're talking about, right? But anyway, that's kind of how I see it.
So I can jump in a little bit. I mean, this goes back to me talking to the state ethics and town council, like multiple attorneys about continuing to serve on the zoning board until we resolve a few things. It's the same thing. There is no legal conflict because the select board does not control or order or, the EDC. Like he said, it's an advisory board. Now, our issue is, and I'm speaking as a member of the EDC now, is the fact that we've had to cancel several meetings in a row because we don't have a quorum. And we had a very vibrant full board. We had people step off and we haven't been able to refill it. And anybody who remembers when we were all appointed, I said, as soon as the EDC has enough members, I'm happy to step off and just be a liaison or what. I want to be involved because I'm excited about where we are now and what we're going to get going. But the issue is the quorum. So I do understand, do we change all of this because we've got a volunteer issue right now? I do think we have to go down from the 7 to 9 to 5 to 7. 7 to 9 is just a big unwieldy board. And to be honest with you, I think we made it that big because in the beginning we had that many volunteers and we wanted to make sure everybody could be involved, and Maria's nodding. So in the beginning it was made for that reason. We're bringing it down because we don't have enough people. Doesn't have to cleave to the existing membership. But I do think it has to be a smaller group of people. And we can have as many as, more people can be involved. So, if people get excited about what we're doing. But our issue is we haven't been able to get any work done because we can't have meetings. Any other questions or comments from the board? And because then I'll go to the public.
So, okay, so it's 5 to 7 members now, not voting members. So the maximum number of people would be, including voting people and non-voting people, is 7.
Yep.
I thought it was voting members now. Isn't it 5 to 7 voting members for you to have a quorum?
Yes, today it's 7 to 9 voting members. The request that I put in excluded the word voting because the way that the way it was operating is, other than the FinCom, the charge read that everybody was a voting member. So what I'm saying now is because of the FinCom is going to sit as a liaison, let's just go ahead and call it 5 to 7 voting members.
Okay.
And that keeps it the same as what's there today, except we change the number.
So Rich, where does it say that the planning board and select board are voting members?
It doesn't. Right now, it says
in the
FinCom
original.
has to be, oh, sorry, Rich, go ahead.
Yeah, in the original charge, it says that that basically everybody, other than the select board being a liaison, that those other members are voting members. It says that the following people shall be voting members, and then it lists who they are, and so that's how it comes out in that. I'm pulling it up. Yeah, it says in the current charge, it says membership. The members of the EDC will consist of 7 to 9 voting members.
Yeah.
Additional members will be appointed from the Boxborough community with the following experience. A liaison from the, so it's the markup is hard to read, but it basically says there's a planning board member, 1 member of the FinCom, 4 to 6 members of the Boxborough community with the following experience.
Yeah.
So it was 5 to 7 to 9 voting members.
Yeah.
All right. So we're changing it to 5 to 7 voting members.
Yeah.
No.
It's still struck out. So if you're
in
recommending
this, yeah, we need to.
5, 7 members, right?
That's a little bit ambiguous.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Wes.
I was saying it's a little bit ambiguous, because how do you go from? Because then it doesn't necessarily say like local business owners, are they then becoming voting members or not? And then you kind of would still have the quorum problem, because the quorum is derived from the number of voting members.
Yes.
And so.
Yeah, the old,
There's no
yeah.
voting going on here, that's totally fine, and then it's just like, oh, and then it's like, why do you need a committee?
Maybe it could say 5 to 7 voting members along with a liaison from FinCom or.
Including,
But the voting members won't include the,
Yeah, FinCom
FinCom.
can't vote.
vote. So,
yeah, just delete what, I guess, looking at the markup, right? The members of the EDC will consist of 5 to 7 voting, so keep voting in members, including members of the select board, planning board, select board and planning board, period. The FinCom will have a participant who will be a liaison, serve as a
yeah,
liaison.
who serve as a liaison. Yeah.
Right. Additional members may be appointed from the Foxborough community.
So Rich, I'm going to open it up to the public in a second. I'm going to throw out that we hear from the concerned citizens that are here tonight and possibly rewrite it and bring it back September 11th so that everyone can get on the same page. Does that work for you?
Yeah. I mean, we have a meeting in August. We'll hopefully have a quorum for that. And we can come back and I'm sorry, we'll have a meeting in September 11th. That'll be before our next meeting. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any more, any comment from administration and staff? No? Okay. Mark Barbadero, you're the first one on the Zoom.
Hello, Select Board.
Hello, Mark.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So a couple of things, a couple of thoughts about the EDC. The first is if the town of Boxborough needs an EDC and it is too difficult to come up with 7 to 9 members on the EDC, then lowering the number to 5, doesn't sound like a difficult reach. I think that probably makes a lot of sense. But if the select board is telling us that they're having a volunteer issue, I think packing boards with the same individuals may actually be exacerbating the problem. You might find it easier to get volunteers if you didn't allow a handful of people to volunteer for every single board. So right now, notwithstanding other issues, not conflict of interest laws issues so much as other legal impediments of having multiple members of the planning board on the EDC, getting information that the rest of the board is not necessarily privy to, then bringing them to administrative hearings could be very problematic. And I think that if you want to lower the number to 5, I think that makes a lot of sense. If you want to add or allow multiple members of an administrative or an adjudicatory board to the EDC, I think that could be spell problems down the road. If you want to allow multiple ex officio advisory members of other boards like the FinCom, you want to add all of the FinCom as ex officio members, I don't think anybody would really have a problem with that. But voting members, I would try and minimize administrative boards' roles in the FinCom. And so I think that it will keep you out of legal impediments down the road, but it will also help promote a diversity on a board, because oftentimes you find these people kind of glomming together, whether it's a select board and how the new members of the board all got on the board together at once, or the FinCom where they all kind of migrated from former select board roles to the FinCom, or the planning board where they're all kind of, working with a political action committee and other things.
Okay, all right. Let's stop now. You're heading down a primrose path and we're no longer talking about the EDC charter. The one thing for anyone who doesn't know is we were already, no, Mark, stop. The people you're talking about were already on the EDC when we were elected to other positions. So it's not like we're trying to take anything over. We have a volunteer program. Luckily, we're actively looking for new ways to find volunteers. We would welcome additional participants, but I want to be clear that this was no takeover of the EDC. This was an existing board of commission that is trying to do the right thing for the town. So I think let's not change that.
May I finish?
No, actually, because you're done. Maria, Diana, do you want to talk?
That's very disrespectful, Kristen.
All right. Diana, your hand is up.
Let him finish.
Can you hear me?
I can. Hello.
Hello. Many things. Number one, if the board wants to reduce from 5 to 7 members, fine. I understand how difficult it can be to have a quorum. The fact of the matter is you don't need to add in any charter that it specifies voting members. It is a given when you say 5 to 7 members of a committee that those are voting members. And you can say, you don't even have to specify a liaison from the FinCom because the FinCom seems to have liaisons to every committee in town. So they don't even need to be specified. The select board, in my opinion, should not be on this committee or any other committees for the reasons that I stated in the email that I sent to you. Why
don't you explain that? Because I think that that's valid.
Okay, because the fact of the matter is, as I wrote in the email, which is in the packet, and I would advise everyone to go to the packet and read what I wrote about all of this. And wait, before I get to this particular point, I want to bring up one very important point, which is the beginning of the specifics of the makeup of this committee. To put it out there that it's just members of the planning board and the select board leaves you open to interpretation down the line. That means that you could have 2 members of the select board and 2 members of the planning board because they wouldn't constitute a quorum of either board. That's 4 members. That would actually create, on the 7-member board, a quorum of the EDC, which is a very dangerous situation, in my opinion, because now you have limited it to 2 boards, 2 elected boards dominating as a quorum of the EDC. So if you're going to do it, you have to limit the number. Just because at this moment, the planning board has 2 representatives, one that was designated more or less by the planning board, and the other one who it was just voted in as a normal member, happens to be on the planning board, is not a reason to increase the number of planning board members on the committee. That having been said, the fact of the matter is the planning board, let's just take the planning board for a moment, does have a conflict of interest. The point of the EDC is to encourage business in the town, which means that if it's doing its job, it should be out there contacting businesses and encouraging them to come to Boxborough, whether they be businesses that relocate in an existing space that may actually require some oversight from the planning board. For example, what occurred with some of the business that went into 1414 and took up space, which was already there. It still had to be regulated because it was a use which wasn't originally planned for the building. So it is possible that the planning board would regulate the very developers or business owners or whatever that the EDC is trying to get to come to town. As such, there's a conflict there, in my opinion. The planning board has an oversight function over those businesses, whether they be public or private. They have an oversight function. Doesn't mean every business. It doesn't mean every project, but more than likely they'll be involved. Having a member of the planning board there gives a certain bias to the member who is on the committee who may or may not have voted for that project, but let's just assume they did. In which case then they come to the planning board with a certain bias. And they don't have a neutrality, which they should maintain in order to properly regulate those businesses. As far as the select board is concerned, I don't believe the select board members should be on any other committees. The select board has the biggest oversight function in the whole town. It supervises every activity of the town from start to finish. And if it's a private concern, it still may regulate the what goes on, because almost everything which impacts the town in some way or other does come before the select board. Just look at what you did just now in the public hearing approving a liquor license for a project that you did not have anything to do with, but that entity came before you. Imagine if you had been sitting on the EDC and you had gotten that business to come into that space, you would be in a conflict of interest because you will have sort of prejudged that project. I don't think the select board members should be on any other committees. And forgive me, Kristen, I know the explanation you gave before about being on the EDC. I don't agree with it. And I intend to go to the Ethics Commission, not to file a grievance against you. That's not my point. But I do want to get something in writing about Massachusetts law section, Massachusetts laws 268, section 21A, which is what I'm talking about here. Because to me, it is quite clear, the concept of supervision that you talk about would be true for every committee in the town, which means it would make this 21A, section 21A absolutely useless because it talks specifically about select boards and their oversight, their supervision. The only thing select boards do is appoint and quote unquote supervise the committees that they control, and they control them because they create them in the charges. They control them, i.e. supervise them in the people that they appoint to them, and they have the power of removal. So I intend to find out if indeed writing. In any case.
So I can help a little bit. There's special rules for small towns. Like, again, I went through this with two separate attorneys, and you are welcome to go down the same path. Absolutely.
No, I know there
Do you
are.
have anything else to add that's different from what you've already said?
No, I think I've made it quite clear that I think it's important that we maintain checks and balances in this town. And as far as I see it, the select board and the planning board and the FinCom provide the necessary checks on other things that are going on in town. And by the way, as far as the FinCom is concerned, the FinCom doesn't even necessarily to be specified as a liaison, nor would the select board in any charge, because you can choose to have a liaison to the select board if you choose to have one, and the FinCom can choose to have a liaison to the EDC, if you choose to have them. They don't need and probably shouldn't be in the charge at all. So that's
okay. All right, thank you. The next person with their hand up is John Markowitz.
Hello?
Hello, we hear you.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions. First question is, who's currently a voting member of the EDC?
Rich, can you take that?
Thank you. Yeah, so it'd be myself, Mark White, John Nealon, Kristen Hilberg, and Marta Andreo.
Okay. All right, so you only have right now, you only have 5 voting members.
Correct.
Okay. But you have 2 voting members from the planning board, right?
Correct. And a voting member from the select board.
Okay. So the whole concept of the EDC was actually something that came out of the master plan as a recommendation. And when it was discussed during the creation of the master plan, there was a lot of angst by the citizens of Boxborough when we talked about economic development, okay, because of the concern of development. And basically the charter, the whole idea was behind the EDC when it was created is to find out what can the town do to encourage businesses to come here, And the businesses that are here, what can we do to help them or work with them so that they will stay and make it easier for them to stay or come into town? That was fundamentally what they were asked to do. Now, when I was on the select board, I also served as the liaison to the EDC. I was not a voting member and only there as a liaison, and the role of the liaison is really to listen and not to advise the boards of anything or take any votes. The other thing that came out in the master plan when this was being discussed is the strong desire for citizens to participate. Okay. And I think that having, when I look at the current makeup, if you just keep it at 5 voting members, and you keep the same makeup, you have very little citizen participation. And I think that that's one of the things that needs to be encouraged. And I think that that's what we should be doing, as opposed to stating where these voting members are going to come from. I do not believe that a voting member should be a member of the select board, because anything that happens at the EDC will eventually come to the select board and or the FinCom for some decisions or votes. With regards to how many members from the planning board should be on there, I really think it should only be 1. The whole idea is we need people from the business community. We need people who are going to be able to make sure that the public is engaged. And that's what we should be focusing on. Okay. I think it's a danger if we continue to say that the membership is going to be comprised of people who are of other boards. Okay. I think the other board members can participate, but not be voting members. And that provides a great deal more flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody here? Becky?
Just 3 real quick things. First, there's no reason Mark White couldn't be a business member and not serve as a planning board member. That's the issue, because he owns his own business in town, and that's important. Second, select board does serve on other committees. They serve on the building committee. There's 2 members. They serve on the capital committee. I can't remember what else. And it's interesting because there used to be 2 members of the planning board on the ZBA. And when that happened, they didn't seem to have a problem with that. And that's 2 regulatory,
There are still 2 planning board members on the ZBA.
Really?
Yeah, on the ZBA. Oh, no.
No, there's only 1 now, but when
Sorry.
there was 2, they
Sorry.
didn't seem to have a problem with it. So I just wanted to put that out there. Like, it wasn't okay. It was okay for 2 regulatory boards to have 2 people. So I just, we need to be careful and, pick our battles carefully here.
Well, again, I've said it multiple times. I don't need to be a voting member. I want to stay involved. And if there are any volunteers out there that would like to take my position, I'm happy to step up. But if I step up right this second, the EDC can never meet. So if somebody wants to sign up, bring it on. Talk to Rajan, talk to Mike, and take my place and let me be a liaison. Because I need you all to know, I don't disagree with Mark or Diana or John. It's just the position we find ourselves in right now. And it's in writing, it's everywhere. So someone take my place. I'd be happy to step up. Any other discussion from the board?
No, I have the same concern now that Becky just raised in terms of, so if we say that select board members cannot be a voting member in any of the other committees, then what happens to the other ones?
Oh, no, we're just saying that this one, we're just saying for EDC.
For
I'm happy to be a liaison. I wasn't a select board member. I'm a small business owner who has my business in town, et cetera, but I don't have to have my selectman hat on when I'm sitting at that table. Because I'm committed anyway. Yeah, but I don't think it affects, personally, don't think it affects any other board or commission. Anybody else?
I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with a select board person being a voting member on the seat. I think the EDC, we want to have people who are informed and know what's going on in the town, be part of that movement. Because if we're just relying on people who work during the week and might have a little bit of time at night,
you know, they're not gonna have the drive to try to make things happen like that. So, I mean, you know, I asked John, you know, go back on the EDC. He was on the EDC before. We need people, you know, join back up. So we absolutely need to get more people involved in the committees. No question about it. And so, you know, we'll get there. We'll do that. Right. I mean, I think with Jean's academy and you know, and Mike talking to people, we'll fill it up. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, because I did ask at one point, what are the openings in the committees? How many openings do we have in committees? So that we can, so I could go out and try to sell it to people, say, hey, you know, what are you doing now? You know, and so, well, how about this committee? Have you thought about that? But I don't have a list. I don't know which committees need people.
That's actually a great idea. I know a lot of committees need people, but yeah, it might be easier to find new members.
Give me a list, I'll sell it. You know, I'll go out and
I think Kelly's did send
He said,
the list, yeah.
but it wasn't a complete list.
Well, we're still building it.
yeah, it was the people that responded back to.
Right. That's the problem, right? So we need to kind of.
Maybe the way to do it is an email to all the chairs, just to say, hey, you did that. All right. Well, I guess you have to chase the people that didn't answer.
Yeah.
All right. It's like an RSVP to a party.
We need to push them. We need to push them a little bit harder. That's why we have a strong TA.
And I think one thing we can do long term is just create a volunteer page on the website and just have what vacancies are on the boards and committees.
Yes.
I wonder if we could have a volunteer page in the Boxborough News now too. Like, I wonder if they'd give us even a half page of, you know, volunteer of the month or position of the month or exciting opportunity of the month. I don't know. But yeah, maybe try to do it, and maybe social media too. Hit all the arms. Okay. Wes, did you have anything?
Yes. So we've kind of added two things here, I guess. So we're talking about the volunteers. And the other thing, so ignoring that part of it, because I'm fine with changing it to 5 and 7. Voting members, they don't really know if we should stipulate the select board, planning board, and FinCom aren't members. And the FinCom already said they don't necessarily want to be voting members.
Bless you.
And the same for the select board, planning board. I don't know if they should be voting members. If they're really, people have that kind of drive and desire, what I've seen or in my experience is that a lot of people who are not currently involved won't get involved if there's no, if they can't vote, because the way that my understanding of people that I've interacted with so far is, well, if I'm not a voting member, then am I really a voting member? And some people just say, well, no, it's not worth my time. Because then otherwise you have to sit there and follow everything. And unless it's something you're really passionate about or somebody reaches out to you, like, you don't really care. Like, when you have the voting member, you kind of have that obligation. So it seems like we have the interest from the select board and the planning board and the FinCom to be at least liaisons in this aspect where they have the drive and desire to do that. Whereas having these voting members who aren't members of these boards may open it up to encourage people who have not previously joined or were not possibly thinking about it before, because they just said, we have two.
Sure.
Like, we have like one spot left or something like that. And they'll just be like, I don't really want to do it that way, but that's just my.
Sure. Well, right now, technically there's 3 voting member opportunities. Because like I said, as soon as someone takes my place, I will step down as just to liaise. So again, if there are 3 spaces open, actually right now it's 7 to 9. So right now there's actually 5 spaces open, you know, that can be filled. So, but I do hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying. So. Okay, Barbara Salzman, you've got your hand up.
Thank you.
Are you going to volunteer? I'll put you on the spot.
My husband is actually, but we'll talk about that later. Anyway, the way I see the mission of the EDC and the role of the planning board, I can see some conflicts there. And nothing personal, and but I would really urge you to examine more closely those two roles. Because personally, I'm uncomfortable with that. So that's my ask, is for you to look at that more closely.
Sure. Yeah, will do.
So I also think that there may be some disconnect here, and for people that maybe not necessarily familiar, not necessarily just Barbara, but in general, right? So if I say this is a conflict of interest, like what does that actually mean when you call the state ethics line? What that means is that what they care about and what they go after is if you personally profit, direct family members profit, and all of that stuff. What these other people are bringing up is the aspect of you're literally having 1, 2, or 3 people kind of shepherd somebody or something through without having diversity in that. And so I think that I just want to clarify and point out that I think that that's where a lot of these different, like the not misalignment, but just different viewpoints.
We're doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Overlap.
Because you can say like, no, it's not a conflict of interest because no, I'm not personally profiting. And I'm not trying to like pick on.
No, I know. No,
but
it's
like
fine.
but from the perspective of, is it like if you tell like a 5-year-old and they say, is this okay? And they're like, well, I don't know. And it's kind of just like this is where it gets the perception of, and that's that part where it's a little bit hairier.
Mhm. Barbara, are you? Go ahead. Can we unmute Barbara?
Okay, sorry, Wes, I didn't quite follow what you were saying. But I certainly don't want anyone to think that I'm talking about personally profiting or anything like that. I think you mentioned that. I'm just see it as the mission of the EDC, of course, is to welcome businesses. And the mission of the planning board is quite different in terms of really issuing special permits, looking at the regulations and all that kind of thing. So I could see that if I were on both committees, it could be a little bit difficult. So I would really urge you to look at that. Thank you.
Okay. Mark, do you have your hand up for something new or because you didn't take it down?
Hi, thank you, Kristen. I noticed that you cut me off and I was wondering, is there a subject that I'm not allowed to discuss at this meeting with respect to the EDC?
You were heading down a path, a political path. You were off topic. So everyone stayed on topic, but you started casting aspersions about small groups of people trying to take over whatever, and that's just not the case. And so that's why I had to ask you to stop.
Let me clarify that right away. I didn't say anyone was trying to take over the EDC, but I did say that there is a small group of people that are filling themselves in every board, particularly the chair of the select board. But it's not an aspersion. It's you have a belief system that differs from mine. And I respect your opinion. You and I have worked together on boards in the past, and I know that you don't disrespect my opinion. You just disagree with it. But I do think sometimes people, need to be allowed to express their opinions on these subject matters. And also, I guess if you agree with me that we need a diversity of people on these boards, I'm already on the ZBA, so I can't replace you there. But I can replace you on the EDC. And it sounds like you're making that offer. So tonight, this board can appoint me. I'm officially requesting. You know my credentials. I am actually a small.
You could fill out the volunteer. We make everybody else do the volunteer form and the resume. So we'll get you on the September 11th agenda.
Well, that's great. And I hope I will be expecting your resignation on the September 11th agenda as well. I'd be happy to put that up. But what I was talking about was a political action committee that is filling a void in town, not trying to take over, not casting aspersions, just simply saying that if we have a political action committee and John Nealon, Kristen Hilberg, Mark White.
No, Mark, I have to stop you here. You and I have had offline conversations about this. I am not a member of a political action committee. Neither the people.
Kristen, you solicited the support of the committee. Was on
You
their
have to
website.
stop, Mark.
I have a photo.
We're off
of it.
topic.
I'm gonna put it on
Please mute,
public.
Mark.
You
Please
can
mute,
see it.
Okay. Does anyone have anything else to say about the EDC charter?
Early on, you talked about possibly taking this up at your next meeting. If it would help in the meantime, we have 2 weeks until then. Rajan is working towards, building the Citizen Academy. Maybe he and Kelly, with the people they reach out to, could work on bringing some other candidates, because clearly there aren't enough people to fill the roles. And then maybe I could work with Alec Wade, our planner, and try to bring 2 people forward in the next 2 to 4 weeks. That doesn't solve all the issues here, but maybe bringing some other candidates forward would help a little bit.
I think that's a great idea. The more candidates, the better.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if then should we even do this on September 11th or move it out? I mean, I know it's not probably ideal for the EDC, but do we want to give it a month? I'm just asking.
I wouldn't support that because there's a meeting coming up, and if
I think they're having the meeting already before September 11th.
No,
it's
right after.
It's right after
that. Oh, okay.
All right. Alec, you have your hand up. Alec Wade, our town planner.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. If I could just respond to the point that one of your board members just raised, I would ask that the board keep this on your September 11th agenda. Within the notice of funding available through the grant program that Rich brought up earlier, we do have firm deadlines that we have to meet incrementally within a grant application, and we do have an application in the queue. While I'm sure they'd be willing to extend out, I'd really like to get their public process open and get that in front of a public meeting. So if possible, I'd like to see this on your September 11th agenda. And of course, if you're not prepared to make a decision, you can always push it at that date and time.
Thank you, Ellen.
Good point. Good point. Diana, do you have anything to add about the EDC charter?
Yes, I do, actually. I just wanted to go back to a couple of points that have been brought up since I spoke. First of all, whether or not you resign, Kristen, has nothing to do with what the charter would be, what the charge would be. And the overarching point here is about the policy of the town. And as I said in my email, and as you and I had a conversation a couple of months ago, the appointed boards policy is something I had wanted to take up while I was on the select board and couldn't quite get to it because we had some other issues. And I mentioned it to all of you, the new members, when you came on, that was something that I was interested in discussing. The point is that when we faced as a board last year, the appointment of someone, Mark White, who was on the planning board, to the ZBA, this kind of discussion came up again about certain conflicts. And the point that was made at the time, and I made it as well, that under the existing regulations, there was nothing to bar it. And the point that was made by Becky and that Priya mentioned, well, what do we do about the other committees, et cetera, where all of that is in there? I understand that, but if we keep going back to the point of that's the way we've always done it, and we never look at the underlying issues, we never change those policies, and we just keep going on tradition and past practices. I really would like the board to take a wholesome look at this whole issue. This is part of it. There are other issues involved with who serves on committees and other things in the appointed boards policy, which is an overarching discussion about what would govern this board and these kinds of issues. So I just wanted to make that point because I think it's important to come to some general concepts about who gets to be appointed, how charges are made, how committees are put together, and who gets to serve on what and where. And all of that goes towards encouraging more participation, should be the ultimate goal.
Okay, so what I hear you saying is that we maybe put a pin in changing anything about the Economic Development Committee until the select board revisits their appointed board policy? Is that an efficient kind of way of putting it? You can take Diana off mute. She can't answer the question. Is that what you're asking, Diana? Because I asked you if you had anything else to say about the EDC.
Honestly, the board can make a decision on this policy as long as they don't feel they have to take into account all the other places where.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I do think that this should be visited as a general idea. And that doesn't mean you remove everybody from committees if you decide to go in a different way. For example, you, Kristen, technically speaking, ethically and legally could stay on the EDC until the end of your term. And the point that I was making is you shouldn't reappoint yourself to the ZBA for a new term. So you could still stay. But the other part of it is your resignation has nothing to do with how you craft this charge, because that charge moves forward with or without you.
Good point. That's a good point. You're right. Okay. All right. I'm going to suggest that we, Rich, can you take some time to work with Mike and maybe rewrite this and clarify the committee charge? It'll drill it down and bring it back.
Yeah, I can do that. It might be helpful to get a little bit of guidance from this board as to which direction they're going. I heard everything from, a voting member of the select board, a non-voting member of the select board, not having two participants from the planning board, not having any voting participants from the planning board. So a little bit of guidance from this board, and then I can go with Mike and we'll frame that up. Otherwise, I want to come back on the 11th with something that's going to work. And I respect if you need more time to think about it, but if there is guidance that you want to provide or can provide, then we can go off and do that. Unless Michael has another idea.
No, I think Rich's point is very good. I'd be happy to work with Rich on this, but I think we could both use a little bit of guidance on what to come back with. And we would certainly work between now and then over the 2 weeks on recruiting a couple more people. But I think Rich and I could come back with something, but we would want a little bit of guidance. Is it one member per board? Is it reducing the number in total? And we can come back with something a little more solid. But I agree with Rich. There've been a lot of good discussion, but the ideas have been all over the place. So we would want to narrow it a little bit so we can come back with something focused that the board can consider in 2 weeks.
Does anyone want to propose anything from everything we've discussed?
I'm not sure that I do at this point, because it's really about, it comes down to the voting members, right? Clearly, FinCom says, we're out and have to have a rationale for not wanting to be in. But do we want to say we're out from a voting member? Personally, I don't.
Or the planning board. Those are the three boards: the planning board, the select board, and FinCom. FinCom's out statutorily, so now you've got the other two. And so, well, maybe we need to step back and think about it and plan to have this discussion on the 11th. So don't task Rich with writing anything until we all have a chance to think about it and come back with our own ideas and cobble it together then. What do you guys think?
I think I'd like to hear the TA's recommendation, not to put you on the spot, but right now, but if we do walk away and think about it, I think,
sure.
We have there's a whole open meeting notion, so we got to be careful about that, but.
Sure. Here's what's going on in the back of my mind. If I was to sit down with Rich right now, I would say, let's see what it looks like with one member of the select board, one member of the planning board, and a total of 7 members, which would mean you need a 4-member quorum. And could we do that? And I don't know how that sets with the board or how that sets with Rich, but that to me is what's in the back of my mind as a place to start. And I think that would also mean, like Diana alluded to, that doesn't mean kick anyone off the current EDC, but moving forward, if there's going to be any charter change, to move in the direction that Rich and his EDC need to move in, which is starting to look at these applications, start to do it, the work of the town in attracting businesses and supporting the business that we currently have, make sure that he can come up with a quorum for his meetings. And I think that means, coming down from 9 to 7, but also hearing the other concerns about, maybe 2 from planning and 2 from select board is a little too heavy on those 2 elected boards. And so that's what's going on in the back of my mind.
Technically, when you make it 5 to 7, then if you just have 5 members on the board, you only need a quorum of 3. It's not like, it's only if you have 7.
Right, yeah, right, because how many people are, yeah. Okay. I think that's the direction. What does it look like? The board has time to think about it. You come back with what could it look like? And then maybe it's, I've got to give Rich and Mark White a ton of props because they've done a ton of work on this committee. So for them, for us to arbitrarily say, okay, you guys are out on the planning board, that's a huge void. So I like Diana's idea of finish out terms. And at that point, going forward, things take over. So things change. So I appreciate that. Because it really would be a huge loss to the town. I mean, we wouldn't have these grants without them. So, okay. All right. That was just, I shiny squirreled everybody. All right, let's do that. You and Rich work on what it might look like. We think about where we are. Wes, you didn't have a chance to talk. I'm sorry.
I did. I said I don't think that the select board, like the elected committees should be on it because we're appointing people to fill it. So if we're just either liaisons or none.
Okay, all right.
Like, that's fine. We can all participate, but it's not excluding us from going and saying your piece. And if it's something you're really passionate about, go do that. Like, I don't care. I just don't know if the select board should be obligated in the future to serve on this board.
Okay. Well, maybe, we're at stalemate. I think we all need to take a step back and think about it and come back on the 11th and we'll pick it up again. Okay. Because we've gone in a lot of circles. My head is swimming.
Thank you, Kristen, Select Board. I'll work with Michael. I think we can fashion something up and come back, and you guys can think about it in the meantime. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
I also would like to revisit the appointed board policy. I think that makes good sense and try to do it when we're not slammed with fall town meeting and slammed with ATM. Definitely get that and look for a lot of public participation. Get an idea of what's what. Okay, on to more fun stuff. All right, the next thing, I'm so sorry, we are an hour late.
Do we have to have a motion to do this or?
No, because we're not doing anything. Yeah. Oh, all right. I moved to pass over this action item until the September 11th meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Actually, no, we're not passing over. We discussed it. We're not passing over. We're just pushing it to the next meeting. Yeah, we don't have to vote on that. Yeah, we don't have to vote on that. Yeah. Okay, we didn't pass over it. Okay. The next thing we'll be discussing is discussion and possible vote of police education incentive overpayments. Now, I know there's been a lot of interest in this topic, and Mike has pulled me aside to say there are rules of engagement. It actually says in the agenda, the chair will not be taking citizen input. I would actually like to take citizen input as long as everybody follows the rules. We can't talk about specific people. We can talk about the philosophy of if somebody is overpaid, what should happen. We can talk about when that should happen, how it should happen, if it should happen, but no names can be used because there are actually multiple instances that the board is going to clean up in executive session. I don't know what that cleanup's going to look like, but we can't talk about people. So if anybody wants to raise their hand and explain their philosophy on the situation, I'm happy to entertain that. We'll start with the board. Does anyone want to say anything in this meeting? No?
Well, we're going into executive session
Mm-hmm.
for this, right? So it's
What I would like to do is allow the public to have a voice about how they feel about the situation, as long as no names. If a name of any individual is brought up, I need you to mute whomever is speaking. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. Are you all comfortable with that? Because I just feel like people need a voice. People need to be heard. If you all tell me no,
It's a risk. It's a risk. I mean, it's gonna be a line that'll be crossed pretty easily.
Technically, the public can say whatever name they want, like it's just more about official capacity from the town where they say, you don't say like a name or.
I'm asking to elevate the discussion to a philosophical discussion. I'm asking the people that are participating to join me there. I'm very concerned about character. You're right. There's been lawsuits. You can say anything you want, anywhere you want, at any time you want, but I'm asking for this level of respect. So I guess you can't mute someone if they go off, but we can keep them to 3 minutes, right?
As long as you set that stipulation before. So if you say for this purpose of this discussion, we're limiting public participation to 3 minutes, then that's fine.
Okay.
And we certainly, in our public capacity, won't be discussing an individual or responding as far as a specific individuals.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely not. But you're right. And anybody in the public can say anything they want, whenever they want. But all right. So we're going to limit discussion to 3 minutes. Anybody who's physically present have anything to say?
I guess. Do you want to just frame it real quick? So
Yeah, that'd be great.
effectively, what we have is one or more people being paid the incorrect rate for whatever period of time there was. If you actually look at it from the perspective of that, the recollection of funds or the improper payment would typically be collected. If you, for example, you go to the ATM and say, I have $1 million, and even if you withdraw $1 million from the bank account, the bank's still going to come for it. Maybe today, tomorrow, a week from now, they're going to come for it because it's not your money. And at the end of the day, that's kind of the need, or I guess the perspective that I would take as well, is just making sure that, yes, there was, however it happened, there were people paid at incorrect rates and received monies that were not contractually agreed to. And if it was under the personal administration plan, it would be in the same manner where they enroll or they sign up for the job and it's under the personal administration plan, or if there's a contract governing that, there's that. Like, for example, I didn't check, or when I started a new company a bit ago, or a few companies ago, they made a mistake with my withholdings, and I checked it about 2 months in. And yes, the IRS came and said, well, why are you not paying us our taxes?
Damn.
Yeah. So, and that means I do think that it is important to make the books whole or make them right. That's just my perspective.
Okay, so setting the stage. So that's what we're having, is hopefully an elevated conversation about, okay, we're there. Anybody else on the board have any comments?
Not at this time.
Okay. All right. So we'll do people here and then we'll do Zoom and then we'll close it out. Maria.
So my only comment is a couple of comments. This has been litigated by 5 law enforcement agencies, groups, DAs, FBI, Department of Justice, on and on. And the backup in this package, so I'm getting that you're not going to be discussing this in detail, but it refers to an unofficial audit that should be provided to you as details done by a select board member. I would ask that you take with you into an executive session the thought that if we're going to do this, then we should be getting a forensic audit of all the payroll system, of all the employees over the course of a last number of years. Because while we had this problem with the police department, we have had problems in the past with our payroll system, with every department in this town. So if we're going to do this, and just to be clear, there was an article on the ATM for forensic accounting, right? Mm-hmm. There should be a forensic accounting of payroll. And our payroll system And I'm speaking, I'm sorry, unless the chair tells me not to.
Stop.
If we're going to do this, then we need to go back and really deal with all of the payroll issues we've had in the past. And we've had payroll issues going back to when I was on the school committee and Blanchard wasn't part of the region. And whether it's accruals or it's proper deductions being taken out or payroll issues and rate issues, we should do that, and we should pay a professional to do that. It should not be an unofficial audit by any member of a volunteer board. The finance committee shouldn't do it, and the select board shouldn't do it. If we're going to go back and ask employees, particularly when this has been litigated to death, my understanding was we were putting this to bed, but we just can't quite put it to bed for a few people in town. We're putting this to bed. At town meeting, we heard from the town, we're done with this. We want to put this to bed. We don't want a forensic accounting. People got up and said, we're finished. The FBI has concluded, and now it is time to move on. And we haven't moved on. We continue to torture the police. Whatever, there's members that do that. In my opinion, if you're going to go and talk about this in any real way and try to get an employee to pay the town back, then we should have a full forensic accounting of our payroll for a number of years going back. And it shouldn't be 1 year. It should be 10 years,
Has anyone
15
been timing?
years.
We said 3 minutes. Are we?
that's it.
45 seconds left.
Oh, you have 45 seconds left. Okay.
I don't have much else to say. I made my point. So
Okay.
I just think that's important. Thank you.
If I may provide some clarification.
Yes.
The annual town meeting warrant was a forensic audit into the investigation that was conducted. It's not an audit of the payroll records going back. That's what that was. So by completing these two things, it sure sounds nice on the surface, but it's not the exact same thing. Additionally, I don't really know of any other union where it's based on it, you get a percentage increase based on education. This is specific to police, where it's based on your degrees. No other contract has it, and well, they do in a way, but it's not percentage wise, and it's not initially where it started based on the state. So I just want to provide that clarification. And additionally, the role of the select board here would be to either pursue a repayment plan or not to. And so the amounts, we shouldn't be deciding, like that should be verified and corrected. Like that's it, or at least that's my opinion, but that's where I'm coming from in terms of our role in this, because we have to be the ones to accept money coming back into the town. Much like if somebody wanted to donate $11,000 to the town, the select board would have to accept it. Just like we have to accept the grants, just like we have to accept everything else. That is our role, not necessarily the accounting and all of that stuff.
Okay.
We're setting an amount.
I appreciate you separating the two. I think both comments have merit. Okay, but you're right. They shouldn't be layered in this instance. Okay. Mark Barbadero, you've got your hand up. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Kristen. Is there any other rules other than not mentioning names that you'd like to bring up now before my 3 minutes start?
No, your 3 minutes are going. Go.
Oh, okay. Yes, I can see that it's really important to you. So I would just say this, that, that Wes just raised a huge red herring that Maria dropped, which was she was basically saying at town meeting, we were talking about a forensic audit of how much money was paid to people who didn't earn it. That is patently false. We all know it. It was really about investigating the investigators. It was shot down at town meeting. Town meeting said nothing about whether or not we never want to discuss us getting our value for our dollars and getting our money paid to the people who deserve it and taking the money back from people who took our money unfairly. I'm not saying unlawfully, I'm saying unfairly at a high level, right? So that's what took place, okay? And we have documentation from the prior chief that admitted a certain amount. Wes has come up with a spreadsheet. Apparently, you're not sharing it with the public. I do not know why. I don't know why that would only be allowed in executive session. That document could well be a public record law violation and an open meeting law violation if you don't share it with everybody else, if you just keep it internally when I'm officially requesting it at this meeting. So this is what happened. And what we just want is truth and reconciliation. If you want to put the matter to bed, then speak to the truth. Where did the money go and how much? How much money was taken? And then lastly, if there's any time of my precious 3 minutes left, I would say this, that if you really want to bury a problem, you hide a needle in a haystack. You hide a tree in a forest. So if you want to bury this, do an audit of all town departments that could possibly have a problem. That won't get you to the answers we need, but it would be a good way to obfuscate. And that's what was just recently proposed by another citizen. And I thank you so much for letting me speak without muting me, Kristen. Thank you very much.
All right, is there anybody else who has anything else to say? Mark White. I think you're unmuted. Are you talking?
All good?
There you are.
Okay.
3 minutes.
So the town of Boxborough went to town meeting. We put forward an article to get an accounting, a forensic accounting of all the monies that got spent, both with the investigation and for the expenses incurred. The town voted it down on the recommendation of the select board at that time, West Folks included, who's an advocate for doing this now. And it's like, how many times are we going to come back? How many times are we going to come back to this? We've come back to this 6 times. This board, the select board itself, and this board, I don't think at this point has decided to come back at this multiple times. How many times are we going to do this? I think it's time to end this. The board said at that time, let's have reconciliation. Let's start over again. And instead, it's no reconciliation. We're not starting over again. The same people are back asking for all over again. If you go to public records request, you see that Selectman Folks has done multiple public records requests regarding the police department since this all began. I mean, this has got to end at some point in time. It was when they said, let's heal, then we finally said, okay. But then when they lost on something else, then it's, well, no, we can't let that go. So let it go. It's water under the bridge. Let's move forward. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion from anybody? All right. So, we're going to take this up in executive session. Do I need to do anything? I mean, this is just basically public input. I felt strongly, and I know the whole board didn't agree with me, that everyone needed to have a chance to say that just now. People were invited to come in and talk. I feel like, to your point, Mark, it is time to put it to bed, and that's what tonight is for. And we'll do that in executive session. Is there anything else we need to do? Okay. All righty. Thank you for participating. I know it's hard, and I'm glad you all came in tonight. Okay. Am I missing a rest? Okay. Action. Grievance hearing step 2. Local 200 mask cop. We are picking up the statement of grievance regarding holiday pay. And we had already had some of the discussion here. We will also continue this in executive session, but this is just an opportunity for any other public comments and any additional input. I know a couple of members of the board wanted to spend some more time doing their own due diligence and research. So does anybody have anything at the moment?
To start off,
Well,
Yeah, miss.
Oh, mute.
so, I'll start. Do you
Okay.
guys want to move closer to the microphone in case you're gonna need to speak? So we had this, we had this presented to us at the last meeting. And I thought, I need to understand this a little bit better before making a decision.
Closer to the-
Sorry.
Closer to the.
Can you bring your mic a little closer to you, please?
Oh, me,
Close.
okay. Oh, okay, sorry.
right.
So I tried to understand it a little bit better. And what I've learned is that this has been an unwritten policy, a benefit. I mean, when you look at the contract language doesn't say that. There's no way you can twist it. But if you guys are getting money, which I think is deserved, for working Christmas or New Year's or Thanksgiving, whatever it is, I think anybody doing that should get double time because somebody's working and somebody's home with their family. And I think there needs to be some incentive. And I'm sure that the Chief Ryder had that in mind, that he needs to fill those slots, right? When that people need to work to make it, to provide the incentive. So in terms of, so I'm going back and forth, exactly what is this? Well, from a contract perspective, it's not there. So the chief is right because his job is working according to the contract. But on the other hand, he's not, this is something you guys have been getting for years, doesn't cost a lot of money, and you've been getting it. So why change the language if you're getting it anyway? So it kind of, so that's a sort of, the conclusion I came to is I got to send you back to work it out. And I would like to make a motion at this meeting that we reopen the contract. We signed the contract.
Oh, Mike's
Right?
going to jump in and shut us down whenever we do anything wrong.
Are you going to?
Yeah, if we're gonna talk about reopening the contract, we may want to do that in executive session.
Okay, okay.
If you're gonna get into any details.
Well, no, my point is that it's those of us who signed this contract, we didn't have anything to do with
We
the
didn't
development
negotiate.
of it. It's just like, okay, you need to sign. Wes is probably the only one who was around when that, I mean, even one of you guys was at doing the negotiation on that contract, right?
Correct. We both weren't at that time.
Yeah, so it's like, so we have all these people who signed this contract who didn't do anything to generate it. So I think it needs to be reopened. We want to have, I mean, people are trying to do the right thing. They're trying to do their job. The chief has to follow what's in the contract because people are going to climb all over him for saying, well, what do you mean you're giving him that? Because it's not in the contract. So I get it, but, so whether it's a grievance or not, it kind of is, and it kind of isn't. So the only thing I can say is I would really like to see this, and I don't know what happened to the last thing we set you back to do, to work on the holdover stuff, if anything happened with that. But,
So basically, okay, so let me drill down here. You said two things. One is open it up and the other one is send them back to work it out.
well, I think that's the only way to address it.
So it becomes a policy or a procedure versus a contractual obligation.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to give, I would like this board to give the approval to be able to provide that, just because I think they absolutely deserve it, and they've come to expect it, that they're gonna get double time on Christmas, but it's not in the language, right? So it's kind of like we gotta clean up the stuff from the past.
Can I
That's it. That's
say
all I
something?
got.
I think I have the opposite view, Dave. I just don't think like every time there is an issue, we have to be opening up contracts. I just don't want us to set a precedence in terms of opening up a contract. I think like, yes, the boards are going to keep changing. So every time a new board comes and they feel something different, like, well, are we going to open up the contract? So I think contract negotiations need to happen when it's supposed to happen. And anything else that is outside of the contract that we all have to agree and like kind of come up with a plan for the interim and then do it when the time is due to get all the other things taken care of. Because today it's this, tomorrow it could be something else. Are we going to reopen the contract again? I mean, that's just my take on it. I agree what you're saying in terms of what they have been getting so far. And now that we have caught up to it, it's probably not happening. So I understand that piece, but at the same time, as hard as it might be, we cannot be just allowing contracts to be open every time that we.
I agree that we don't allow it every time, but we didn't develop the contract. You know, we were handed the contract. It was a year old. Here, you got to sign this, right? Because it's a year old. I mean, we were going to open it up. I wasn't going to open it up saying, well, I'm not signing this contract because I don't understand all the language it's in it. So I'm saying we got a new town administrator, we got a new chief, we got a new board. Let's look at it again because I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, I just want to provide a little bit of clarification. So when we all actually inherited this contract, it was before me, it was before chief, it was before these two were officers, it was before you were board members. Wes was here.
I thought you said before you were born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, what you signed wasn't an agreement to any contract language. That was the integration with the memorandum of agreement that the prior interim TA and the prior union president and the union signed with the prior board. So that was just integrating the old contract with anything that was agreed to. And there were no changes pertinent to this. So it was, it all came through here, but we didn't approve any of that. That happened at the memorandum of agreement, which Wes was part of that and Rajan was part of that, but the rest of us were not. So we didn't make any, by us doing that process, we didn't make any contractual changes. That happened almost a year ago when coming up to fall town meeting. In fact, I think a day or two before fall town meeting a year ago, that's when those changes happened in the MOA. But none of those changes would have affected this, either any of the holiday language. There were no changes, to that made. So I just wanted to provide clarification for people listening at home.
Yeah, okay, no, thank you for doing that. Yeah, no, that the holiday language just isn't there. And so, I think in fairness, I mean, after what we've been through the last couple, the police department, the town, it's kind of like, let's get, to Maria's earlier, let's get back on track here. Let's make this work instead of fighting with the language.
Wes, what do you think?
So from a procedural standpoint, this grievance would either be denied or invalid because the language is just not there in the contract. And then I do agree with Priya that anytime somebody brings a grievance, then just to say, here, chief, you're new, we're new, we'll go back and open it up. The chief, there's nothing stopping the chief and union from for them saying, hey, chief, do you mind if we talk about possibly changing the contract? I don't want to be the one to dictate that based on an action brought forth by a union, or even if it's because look at, if you're on the personnel administration plan, you can't do this. And so it's not, these terms were agreed to. And so when they're actually getting enforced, that's not really the time to negotiate them, I guess. And so I don't know if, for me, this would just be either deny or invalid as a grievance, and then it would be up to the union to meet with the chief and discuss this, because once they do that, then once they come up with the language or what have you, then it can be the chief to come to the board and say, hey, look, I support this change. Would you guys be amenable to making this change? And so that would be a new MOA. And so that would leave the chief with his ability to do his perspective, but I just don't want to prescribe management from telling Mike to go do something. Well, that's different, but
We get to tell you what to do. Yeah.
but yeah.
Okay. All right. No, I hear what you're saying. So, and I always kindergarten everything down. So, I had said at the last meeting, this isn't really in the contract. So I'm heading towards that. It's an invalid grievance. But then what I would like is a sense of the board, and I don't know if we have to do this in executive session, a sense of the board to give some direction to the chief about what we would like to see happen? Or do we wait for the chief to talk to the guys and say, this is what I'd like to happen? What's the protocol?
So what you would want to do is if the board is going to give direction to the chief or myself, you want to use, I think it's exemption 3,
Well, not direction, a suggestion. What if it's like, oh, here's an example.
I would-
Like,
I would
I think
still-
some holidays are more important than other holidays, but that might be a subjective.
right.
So that's strategy and negotiation.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, that's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, I think if you want to give guidance like that, I think you want to give that to us in executive session.
Okay,
You as a board, that would be my thought.
all right.
Um,
Because this is another one of those, and I'm just speaking as Kristen, not as what, one voting member of that, where it's not, I don't see it in the contract. It is something we have to push back and say, go figure it out. That's me. So I'm aligning. And I definitely hear you, Priya. You have a lot more experience with unions, and I very much respect that opinion, and I hadn't thought of it that way. So I appreciate that too. But I also love the fact that, Dave, you're looking at something that you see as an injustice. Maybe injustice is a strong word, but we've had past practice that now has changed,
Right.
and we want to make it right for everybody.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good discussion, and that we should probably just finish it in executive session. No?
Yes.
Okay. You're supposed to keep me in line, so I don't mess these things up.
Yeah, I mean, as far as if you're going to deny or invalidate or sustain, you can certainly do that in open session since everything else has been discussed in open session. But if you're going to talk about any changes or what kind of changes or giving some guidance to the chief and I, then that should go to executive session. But certainly you can take a vote to either, deny, invalidate, or sustain. But I agree. I don't think that the language is in the contract to sustain, at least from what I see.
Does somebody want to make a motion? Are we ready for a motion?
So it just, so I can understand this because I don't want to just have a vote that says, that we don't accept the grievance and we walk away. I want to make sure that there's a plan to address this and it doesn't, well, we gotta wait another 2 years.
The executive session does have it listed. And
Yeah.
So this.
Yeah.
No, that's fine, but I just want that on the record that if I say, okay, I don't agree with the grievance, that we're coming up, we're delivering a plan to follow that.
So here's a suggestion. You could take a vote on which of the 3 directions to go on the grievance, and then also to go into executive session for strategy for negotiations.
No, we go into executive session.
And there's your
after the
follow-up
meeting.
plan on giving the chief and I direction.
Because they would just be like, I think they should have ice cream on Fridays. And so that would be part of strategy and say, okay, what do you guys want for this? Or is this like an inconvenience? And so that type of thing. And so those are like the strategy and perspective things, because it's just typically how it works.
Any comments or discussion from the floor?
We can wait till we get into executive session.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on a couple of things. I think I listened to everyone on the board speak and talk about, just going off what Dave said to start, that, long before I got here, I've been here 5 years with the town. And way before this was happening, you worked an overtime shift on a holiday and you got an extra 4 hours for doing so. There was something that, past chiefs did. I know since I've been here, the 5 years I've been here, Chief Kober, he's my 4th chief since I've been here. The 3 chiefs before that, they saw it and, he worked the holiday, he worked an overtime shift. They didn't see any problem with it. He looked at it and saw it differently. Like Wes just said, if you have ice cream on Fridays, you tell a 5-year-old, hey, you have ice cream on Fridays. And then, a new teacher comes in and says, hey, we don't do, ice cream on Fridays. How the kid's going to react. It's something that, every day I look forward to Friday, I look forward to, taking up that shift on a holiday. I know Sergeant Gathia's got 2 young kids. He'd rather not work a holiday. I would, because I don't. But now you have that, in that past practice of, we've always done it that way. We, as a union, read it as a contract of we believe that you get those 4 hours on the holiday if you work. Chief doesn't. That's the back and forth. I understand that, we brought this as a grievance, how the process goes, that, you say it's either invalid or you deny it. That's the way, you guys can go into executive session that you can make that decision. We've gotten to that point. But just where we're coming from, and again, I know Dave was just paraphrasing it, so not double time, it's, 4 hours of straight time on your base pay. So just one of the things, how we saw it as, the 5 years I've been here, I know Sergeant Gass coming up on 15, self, that this has never been an issue because you've worked the holiday, you've gotten the 4 hours. I believe that we even talked about this to nauseam last time, that it's poorly written. I think it's a terrible, we both sides agreed, I think the chief, select board and us, that it's a poorly written paragraph. It's not clear. It's, it doesn't, it can go, I believe it can go both ways, but, we see it as, we've been getting this, 4 hours of straight pay for working a holiday, why we, since I've been here, 4 or 3 other chiefs seen it that way. We have another one come in who doesn't, and as it comes to opening the contract, I know as from a union, I think Sergeant Gaff can speak to it as well. That's not something we'd be opening to do. Because one, we have an issue right here. So we address the holidays. We open it now. Now it's open, fair game to everything. And we're not, I know as a union, we're not going to play that game right now. If we want to go to our next negotiation and we want to negotiate the contract, then it's open. We're addressing holidays right now. If we suddenly open that gate of, we want the contract open. Now we're talking about sick time. Now we're talking about, when you can use a day off, when you can't. They're like, well, hold on. We opened this to talk about holidays and now we're playing the game of, everything's open. And that's, as a union, something that we don't believe, would be the right time. That's why you have negotiations. That's why you go through the process of, what does the town want? What does the union want? What can we agree on? So that was just our thoughts going forward.
As Mike said, we just negotiated last year. We just finally got it complete, done. And
it wasn't, I know it wasn't a quick process. The guys before us did a good job. The TA, they were going back and forth about, what could we all work with? And I know it was a long, again, most negotiations are a long process. And if you're, opening it back up, now we're back at square one. And I think that it'll open up more than just a holiday issue, we choose to do. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody on?
I will just one comment,
sorry,
and we can get into, we can talk about more in executive session, but just that, and Dave, I do appreciate you. I think we can agree it's not in the contract. That being said, and I want to be clear about this, I've never said, and nor do I say now, that they don't deserve it, that they shouldn't earn it. However, I have a fiduciary responsibility to abide by the contract, and that is what I was brought in here to do, and I have been doing. Now, anytime a contractual, idea here can go either way, I have given it to the officers. Absolutely. And it's a long document, the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement. I have always, if it can be argued both ways, but there were a couple times when I could not. And a few of them we were able to work out. The 2 that came to you, we were not. I do appreciate saying what you're saying. However, I did give them that opportunity, and that opportunity is still there in the future if they want to engage. And I don't think it's a great practice, but we sat down, I brought this to them, and then we sat down again about 2.5 weeks later. And I was hoping I gave them an opportunity to midterm bargain if they wanted to give something up for it. I didn't just want to take it away, and we can still do that and talk about that afterwards. But that opportunity was presented, and really for a side letter, it will always be presented. I don't think it's a good use of either one of ours time, to be perfectly honest, but there are things that come up during a contract that maybe you do need to engage in midterm bargaining. So again, that will still be there if you'd like me to do that. However, a negotiation has to be this for that. And if it doesn't come to a conclusion, remember, you negotiate a contract 6 months usually before. So that means we are only a year and 3 months before a new contract will start getting negotiated. So this will come up again during interest arbitration. And as I've said to them, and I said to them the 2 times we met, I would support it if it was in the language. I will support that. And I don't want to speak for Mike, but it's not an unreasonable request. I think during a contractual negotiation for them to ask for that, at least for certain holidays, like you alluded to, because of course no one wants to be on certain holidays, and it should be possibly a higher monetary value to work those. So again, I can sit with them and, we can talk about this during executive session. However, that opportunity was presented. It will always be presented to them. I am simply doing my obligation to enforce the contract. And if it is not a side letter, coming, then it's really not that far away. We'll be negotiating a year and 3 months from now.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Mark, what's that? Oh, we don't go to Zoom? Oh, sorry, can't go to Zoom. See, everyone's gonna keep me in line.
And I have one thing.
Sure.
I agree with President Lowney that it would be a bad idea to open up the contract. But I also agree with Chief that, if it was of interest to both parties, both the town and the union, to negotiate one thing, that's something that the chief could consider, the union could consider, the board could give direction if they like. But I can think, if this is one thing that's important, and I hold the chief accountable to following the contract. And if he's not following the contract, and I find out about it, I'm going to hold him accountable. And he caught this before I did. So I think it's the right thing to do. And I can think of, probably a half a dozen things that are language oriented that would maybe make the contract easier to operate within, maybe easier to understand, that maybe some language could be side negotiated. And that's what this would be if there was any, appetite for anyone to do something, would be, put something, you have to memorialize it. And so that, a year later, 4 years later, 10 years later, when, another board, another, union representation, another chief aren't having the same discussion. Well, it's not there. Well, we used to get it. At some point, whether it's now, next week, or at the next, open contract period, you memorialize it. You put it in the language, you get it there, and you trade it for something. And, maybe there's something that the union would like to offer that's, and I don't want to get into details now, but that is of no cost, not giving up a benefit to them, that they would like to see exchange to keep something that they have been getting that really isn't memorialized. I would like to see it documented if there's going to be any change though.
Just going off of what Mike said, and the chief, and the chief made, this clear a couple of times, I believe last time, that he was, brought in to fix some, what people believe are budgetary problems. I know since this chief has been here that the current topic we are talking about right now, he has done, he has paid out to officers that have worked overtime on holidays. So it has been a past practice under him as well. He did come to us as well and offered a midterm bargaining. With that, he asked, what was something we'd offer? And we came back with, well, we're not going to bargain against ourselves. If, he brought something and said, hey, what about this? Maybe that's something we entertain. But, if we midterm bargain, I'm not going to bargain against our union. Usually you bring two things to the table, say, hey, we want this. Well, all right, I want that. It's the same thing as, a sports reference. If you want to trade for a player in football, like, hey, I want that guy, I'm not going to say, well, I'll give you this guy. Like, who do you want? Something like that. So when he, did bring up midterm bargaining, we were like, well, we're not going to bargain against ourselves. If there's something you want to bring to the table, maybe we'll entertain it. We'll go back and forth, but there never was that. It was, what are you going to give up for it? And then we came, to the conclusion as a union that we're not just going to give you something because, we had this past practice of, getting paid that 4 hours on a holiday. So that's just something I can touch on what Mike said.
So can I ask, without answering specifics, if I was to offer some options, in a closed door negotiating session, would you entertain those things or provide other alternatives to keep something that you've been getting and shouldn't have been getting to get this memorialized? If I put some things on the table, what the chief did, is that because I hear what you're saying, you don't want to negotiate against yourselves. I don't see it exactly that way, but you know what? Like the chief, I'm not opposed to what you're getting. I'm just opposed to you getting it without having it memorialized. I'd be open to listening to you, if you would entertain some thoughts that the chief and I had, or offer alternatives to get this memorialized. As much as I'm not a fan of midterm bargaining, there's, a one for a one, and see if, some things that are tossed on the table, if anything grabs you, like, oh, we're not losing anything by this, and we'd be keeping something that's of value to us. Would you be open to that discussion?
I think that's, one thing we can consider. I mean, me being the president, I sit here in front of you. I can't make that decision right now.
You said entertain.
But
Would you listen?
Entertain. I'd have to, obviously, I know me and sorry, some of you bring back, but again, it's definitely, it's again, a possibility that we could, like I just said, you bring up some things like, hey, these are some things that, we'd like to consider. And as a union, we could look at that and say, all right, is this something we can work with both sides? I think that's definitely, a healthy possibility for both sides.
Priya, what do you think? Only because, like I said, you had some pretty good experience there.
Conflating two things here also, though, like we're conflating the grievance with negotiation. I just wanted to make that.
No, Wes, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think we should handle, the grievance. If the door is always opened for any sort of midterm bargaining, although we don't want to do it on a regular basis. But again, I think the grievance at hand, and again, there is a mechanism in place, and we followed that mechanism, giving them a letter once we found out it was something, giving them 30 days notice. So that mechanism was followed. And this is where we're at now, where, it has been taken away. But certainly, and it doesn't really matter if we come to them, they come to us. If it's something that is important, we will certainly, as Mike said, sit and talk about it. And we have some ideas. I'm sure you guys have some ideas, and we would move forward in that way.
Okay.
Thank you. I just don't want to see, like I said, the language isn't there, and I just don't want to see, we say, well, we're not gonna support this grievance, and then nothing happens. So I want to make sure that, because we are involved in setting policy, that we're kind of pushing to move this along.
The door is open.
To the town's benefit, to everybody, to your benefit, just, it's not a simple yes and no.
Okay. Mark, I see your hand is up, but I was told that we don't do public input on grievance hearings. So I can't acknowledge you. I just want you to know it's not on purpose. Okay. Okay. All right. Does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll move to deny the step 2 grievance.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor of denying the grievance, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, so we'll discuss it further in executive session. Not the grievance, the problem. Being careful here. All right. Now, next action item. We need to close the 2023 fall town meeting warrant. And in the packet and online, there is the list of warrant articles. Mike, do you want to just kind of walk us through that? Do we need to walk us?
No, I think we can skip that one.
Or we're passing order.
Oh, did I miss the line? Sorry.
Definition and select board rule and grievance hearings.
Oh, I didn't even realize. I thought that was part of the previous one. Sorry.
I actually meant to take that out because I don't know if it's relevant.
I was gonna say, I didn't think it was relevant either.
You could discuss it, or you could pass on it.
Just do it so everyone want to discuss it?
No, we'll pass.
All right. All right. So we are closing out the fall town meeting warrant. Like I said, there's a nice Excel spreadsheet. There are 12, it looks like. Warrant articles. Do you want to let us through them quickly?
Certainly. So we have there, as usual, in a special town meeting or a fall town meeting, there are late bills. That's the first one there. Hopefully we've received all the ones that there are. There are some that go back as far as a couple of years. One that's for close to $12,000 that goes back 2 or 3 years. But anyways, there are also other ones. Second thing is an employee retirement withholding. This is something that wasn't done correctly about 18 plus years ago, and it may be something that we need to handle at fall town meeting. It may be something that can be handled in another manner, as you and I and Maria discussed last week. So I left it on there for now till we see which way it's going to go. But it's a matter of, someone is possibly owed some money. And if that's the case, I think we want to make it right for that person, even though it was many years ago, but I can't do that because it's many prior years ago. The third thing is, was brought forward by the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and that's the State Flag Change Initiative. And Wes, on behalf of that committee, has supported about a 2-page document discussing why this state initiative is happening, and they're looking for the support of the town in sending that back to the legislature to look at changing that.
Do this
What?
in our prior town meeting? For some reason, I think
No, so that was different.
that was slightly different. Okay.
So that's the fourth one. The fifth one, as I understand it, what happened about a year ago now was that or maybe even more than that, the decision was made to move all the facilities, building and grounds money over to one department newly created in DPW facilities, which I think was a good move. It's working well. Unfortunately, in that move, it also moved simple things like toilet paper and soap and paper and stuff like that. So when I arrived here, I talked with the department heads, and we all agreed that it didn't make sense to be using a dump truck to deliver, toilet paper and soap around to the different buildings. Those things should be going to those specific buildings. So we made that change, which is all working fine, with one exception, and that is that all the money from police, stayed over at DPW. So this, as I understand it, is just to move that consumables, in other words, not building maintenance money, but just consumables within the police department back to their budget so they can pay for it and we can stop doing it. So that I think is a pretty easy one. As I understand it, we don't have to fund that. I have to.
We're just reallocating.
I think it's just reallocating.
You guys need, no, I'm
I
kidding.
will confirm that. And I hope that's not to fund. I hope that's just in the wrong place. Next one is one that was brought forward by the Water Resources Committee on behalf of Les, who chairs that. And it's a long-range water resource plan. And this is really just moving money that was approved at a 2019 annual town meeting, Articles 17 and 18, to bring that money forward. And I believe that, that all parties are in agreement. That's a smart and good way to move the same money forward that's already been approved, that then they can use for looking at the future water welfare of the rest of the town. Now that we've got a good plan for West Foxborough, for West Foxborough, now to look at the rest of the town. The next article is one that was brought forward by Alec, our planner and land use director, and it's to amend zoning bylaw and establishing a commercial dump code in the uses table. And he'll have more to say on that in the future, but that was to get a placeholder in there. Next is the planning board would like to do a regional traffic study for Western Boxborough, and the estimated cost of about $20,000. More details to come on that. That's something that, especially due to some of the large commercial projects that have been proposed, as well as the uptick in activity in, over on the west side of Boxborough, that is probably a good idea. So that's something the planning board has brought forward. The next one is something that was just discussed last week. And that is currently we have a part-time accountant, and we have funded a position for an administrative assistant in the accountant's department. We've not filled the the administrative assistant position, although we have it partly filled with the person who's also the administrative assistant over at the police department. The plan is to move that person over full-time to the police department. This article is to change the position of administrative assistant to a 32-hour position for an assistant accountant. So in other words, get someone who's trained in and educated in accounting to assist our accountant with that. There's no money being asked for this. It's reallocating money to put somebody in for a half a year until we get to annual town meeting next year. And then it would cost a little more than the current funded position would cost in future years. The next thing is one that came in today, and this is kind of I think could be a good news story. This is asking for the town to approve a full-time bus driver position with benefits, but it's not looking for funding. So this is grant funded through the Massachusetts Regional Transportation Authority, and we're working. So that entity, the same place where we get our MART funding for our senior van, that entity already has a grant approved for them. Now it's a matter of moving some of that grant money to Boxborough so that they can provide a vehicle, we can provide a driver, and then we would be the lead entity for driving Boxborough residents and employees within a 20-mile radius of their starting point. So it could be taking people to Littleton, it could be taking people to Emerson Hospital, could be taking people to Harvard, to Acton, and it
I'm
would.
excited about this one.
And
Is it only for residents?
no, it would also be for employees. And that really,
Yes.
just in the last week, we had an ask for a company that's over in west side of town. Could we get transportation for their employees? Well, some of them are residents going to work there, and some are people that are coming from a train, what have you.
Yeah.
So by providing a driver and becoming the lead on this, we could establish our own regular route Monday through actually 7 days a week.
Imagine us having a bus, you guys.
So
Is this funding like year to year we have to apply for the grant, or how does this?
we would be getting possibly a 4-year grant, and then after 4 years we'd apply for it again. But if it's successful, there's a possibility that
They will renew the grant.
But right,
Yeah,
and
okay.
and we have the opportunity to provide for a lot of needs that have been identified from the business community, from our residents, in numerous parts of town. So I think this could be a good news thing.
So who found the grant?
Our Alec Wade.
Alec.
our
Go,
director of land use. Yeah.
Okay, because I know the Council on Aging years ago had been looking for something like this, and maybe it didn't exist. So way to go, Alec. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alec.
Yeah, so this isn't just for seniors. We have something for seniors, but seniors could also be included in this.
Yes, yeah.
7 days a week, where what we have is 5 days a week, and it's a little more limited. Valuable, but this provides
Right.
More sustainable
More
too.
flexibility.
Like, I mean, it'll allow people to use public transportation, like the T.
Oh my goodness.
So this could be a good thing.
Yes.
The next one is from the fire department, and this is really providing us a backstop in case we don't get the FEMA grant. That's going to fund most of the tenders, 65 replacement. We and they are still very optimistic. The grant process is still moving forward. We're getting good signals, but we want to have a backstop in case that doesn't fall through.
Way to go.
So
All right, so
hopefully,
you did that with the fire department?
no, they did this.
They did this. Way to
They
go,
just-
FD. All
They
right.
sent
Thank
it
you,
to Kelly.
Jason.
She got it on here, so I'm just the mouthpiece for them.
All right. Very exciting.
Next one, the next two, and we'll probably reverse these before it goes to town meeting or before it goes to print. So I'll read from the last one first, which is a sense of the meeting. for regional dispatch. So coming up, we're going to be speaking, Captain Gray, the police chief, and myself are going to be speaking in, I think, October over at the community center with the seniors. And we're going to have a question and answer on what does regional dispatch look like? What does it mean? What are the positive and negative effects that it could have on the town and citizens? And then we're also going to have the opportunity for a tour with transportation provided to about, I think it's 10.3 miles north of here, to go up to the regional dispatch center, look what a center looks like. And then this would be a sense of the meeting, see, with that and with the information that we provide at town meeting, do we have support from the voters in town to keep moving forward? Right now, we're in a test phase of working with regional dispatch, although we're not fully on board and we don't have a signed agreement with the district. We're kind of in a test and check it out phase. And then the last thing, which is just the second to last on your list, is to see if the town would accept the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 6A, 18O through 18V inclusive. And these are things that normally towns coming together to form a regional dispatch would have to go through in the planning phase to become a regional dispatch. The dispatch center that we're primarily looking at, in fact, the only one we're looking at, is Neshoba Valley Regional Dispatch District. They already have an agreement. There's 5 towns, and part of their agreement is that any towns that join this must accept the provisions that I just read from Mass General Law. So the law already provides for multiple communities to come together. Those 5 towns have all accepted these, and it's really just the planning phases to coming in and the financing of the district. So it's going through. It doesn't bind us to anything, but to get to regional dispatch, we do have to accept these, and that's what we have at this point.
Any questions or comments? Any questions or comments, Maria?
Sorry. So I just saw this updated list. So I have a couple questions. So when we voted fall town meeting and funding for it, one of the things we talked about is not really doing any budgetary items or as little as possible. Does the tender need to be on the fall town meeting? Because that's to be bonded. Will we know by then if FEMA is doing the grant? It was on the Springtown meeting and it was taken off.
Right.
Can it not wait until May?
We should know by then. Yes. Let me find out. Captain Malinowski is kind of the expert on this and he's following this. Let me find out what we lose if we take this off of the fall. I want to at least to get it on here as a placeholder. Since the board is closing this out, we can always take it off.
Because
but
how
it's
does,
harder to add it.
because if this is on there, then it's in this fiscal year. So then that affects the tax rates and everything, right, for the bonding, presumably. And when we went to annual town meeting, we kind of put out there, this is what we anticipate the tax rate is going to be, but this is going to be a significant number if we need to bond it. It's like $600,000 if I'm remembering from.
Yeah, I think it's like 528.
Okay, so that's significant. And I feel, we talked about not doing big ticket items unless it's an emergency.
Right.
So that's one thing.
I'll check with him on that one and find out what is it we lose if we don't do it until spring.
Okay. And I just think that's, I just think it's a little disingenuous, given that we kind of said that.
Yeah, and I also think we said back then, like if we had it in the budget, that with the chances of us getting the grant is lower. Because
Right.
they're
They're going to see that we could fund it.
Yeah.
Which is why I got
like
pulled.
what changed now?
Oh, that's that actually makes sense.
Yeah. So
That's why it was pulled at ATM. So maybe we could just follow through on that. The other question I had is my understanding, but not through official channels, is that we might be looking to add a police dog this year. And if that is the case,
Are we gonna get
that is
dog?
the case.
Can we get a dog? Can we get a dog? Can we get a dog?
I'm all about it because I think that,
Oh, we both
we could all use a little police dog therapy dog. But I don't see that on here. And there was a
So-
rumor that it was going to be on for the fall town meeting.
So the chief and I have talked about this one extensively, and I expressed to him, as I expressed to Alec, the concern about putting money items on the fall town meeting. I also said, is the community supportive of this? Is your department supportive of this? I haven't found anyone yet that's not supportive of this. The union and the officers seem to be behind him, with him on this. In fact, it's Officer Bresci, I think, is the lead on doing this. He talked about maybe he can start it later than planned, and not have to fund anything at fall town meeting. But the interest is definitely still there to do this. I think the cost, because it's not just the cost of a dog. In fact, there's a very good chance there's no cost to purchasing the dog. I think he's looked at 5 or 6 places, and I'll let the chief talk more about this if he likes. Is that 5 of the 6 places he's looking at, there's no charge, but there's food, there's veterinary care, there's equipping a current vehicle. There's a cost to overtime to an officer, because you've got to, typically there's dedicated 1 hour a day to care for the dog. If you don't have enough people on shift, then that means after an 8-hour shift, you're paying somebody overtime to care for an hour for the dog every day. So there's some costs there. The total cost there, could be about $26,000. So, in that we talked about taking it off of this warrant, and and possibly seeing about funding in the spring, and seeing what they could do through fundraising between now and then, and maybe delaying the getting the dog. But the chief can probably answer more thoroughly than I just did.
Yeah, I mean, we had extensive conversations, and we're going full. We very much want to get a canine for the department for multiple reasons, but not just the community aspect of it, but also we have a lot of trails here. We have a lot of open space where I think it's would be a valuable addition to the department and to the town. Again, not just from a community function portion of it, but that's obviously a big portion as well, but also from a search and rescue type of portion. So we're moving forward, and it was strictly a matter of what's the best way to fund it, and what's the best, I guess, avenue to go about getting it. What we didn't want to is put up an expenditure item at fall town meeting when really they're supposed to be, as it was kind of explained to me, in the spring. So we were trying to come up with other mechanisms to get it done earlier, wait till the spring. But by all means, if we were certain it would pass that fall meeting, it being an expenditure item, we would have put it there. We didn't want to sideline the project not because of the project itself, but because of we're just not going to fund anything at fall town meeting. And that was the kind of the conversation, the reason we said we don't want it to get sidelined for the wrong reasons.
So I'm a big fan of this.
Yep.
So let me put that out there. But here's the problem. If you fundraise for this dog, as you said, there's some upfront costs for the dog, but then most of it's going to be maintenance costs, and it's going to be a budgetary item going forward. So I don't know if you can compare the two. When we hire a new employee, we put it on the warrant because it's hiring the new employee and it's an ongoing expense. So if you divide this and say, 10,000 of it's going to be billed out to the car, whatever, kennel, whatever you guys got to do, but X number of dollars is going to be an ongoing expense. I just don't know how you fundraise for a dog that, what happened, because then it becomes a budgetary issue. So in my opinion, it should go on the warrant as if it is a new employee, which I know sounds ridiculous, but it is an ongoing expenditure. So is it going to cost $15,000 a year for the dog? And if that's the case, I'm going to vote for it because I love dogs. That said, I think that the town needs to see this before we start fundraising for it. And I don't want to put the project off. Just something for you guys to think about as you are about to close the warrant.
And I will say, I was the bad person here that stalled this because, and I expressed this to the chief on Friday, and then again when we met today, I said, my experience is that when an article fails a town meeting, it has a tougher fight the second time and a lot tougher the third time. I don't want to see this fail because I'm very supportive of this as well. And to your point, it's not like an employee. This is an employee. This is a police dog, so this is a police officer. And so the expenses, while the dog's not getting a salary, the canine officer is getting, some salary benefit out of this. And there is equipment, there's, like I said, veterinary expenses. If you all think that the town would support this at fall town meeting and there's a way to fund it, I'd be happy to put, and I know he'd be thrilled, and I think the department would be thrilled to see it go back on. It's a good thing all around. I was just afraid of it failing at fall town meeting and not having a chance in the spring. And I think, by fundraising, the thought was put off the dog for a while, get some money. But if what I'm hearing is.
But I think you can still do that. But you have a warrant article that says, even if it's funded, I just think it needs to be a warrant article. I just think if there's an ongoing budgetary expense year to year going forward, people need to know that that's happening. As you said, it's an employee, a really cute employee.
And my thought is it would definitely be a warrant article. I was looking to push to spring just because I don't want to see it fail in the fall. If we think it's got a good chance in the fall, I'd rather see it go in the fall. And I think that our police department would probably appreciate that too.
What do y'all think? Oh, I'm sorry.
It's written, ready to go. I mean, we have it. We could, if we haven't closed it yet, I know I stepped out. If you want to include it, I would be all for it. Again, it was mainly a process that it was getting the canine.
Are we talking about like a German Shepherd, kind of like a sniffing dog,
To find my wandering grandchild.
Are we talking about a golden retriever for everybody to pet?
Could be a lab, could be a German Shepherd, could be a golden retriever. There's a bunch of dogs that do it, but I think it's also.
Primarily for search and rescue and for a community service function, not some of the other things that dogs do other places.
Does that tend to be breed specific? Like if you're looking for search and rescue, do you
Most likely a lab. I mean, we had been talking a lab, most likely. I don't want to say 100, but that's kind of the idea we were moving forward.
Officer Bressy, box for labs. There's a lot.
Officer Bressy's done a lot of work helping put together a formula and to move this forward. So yes, we're very supportive to move it forward.
How many search and rescues have we done in the past?
Since I've been here already, which hasn't been that long, I can tell you at least 2 that I know of that when a kid was missing, again, we found it right away.
I have a wandering 4-year-old grandchild. It wasn't mine that time, but we've all.
But I mean, I think.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. We've had that in the past.
Because you had
Sergeant Gass, you can put that.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, what is going on?
I mean, Sergeant Gass has been here a lot longer than I have. He'll tell you more than.
Sorry, Priya, I know we just had one Sunday night.
Okay.
I was on the overnight with Officer Bressy and we had a call state police for a canine at the time. They were in Millbury, so they took 35 minutes to get here. Fortunately, we were able to locate that individual. But help of a canine would have been huge at the time because the weather was poor. It was heavily raining that night. So just having a canine and as well as its other sense of smell, visibility was difficult. So just
I'm all for it.
Yeah, I didn't even say it's Sunday. Thought I'd bring in
these
something.
are things that you guys have to be ready with because I'm sure people in town would want to know, like, how many have you done? Have there been any of those? So, yeah.
And also from
that information.
From a mutual aid point of view, I mean, I know it's for Foxborough, but a lot of towns help us. I mean, here's something where Harvard start. You want, if you have a dog working and there's someone missing, that time is of the essence. So you want to be able there. We're helped a lot by our neighbors. Something like that where time is of the essence. We want to be able, if maybe their dog isn't working at the time, but ours is, we want to get there right over to Harvard or Stowe and help them as well. So
sadly, wandering small children often wander towards water.
Yeah.
And so 35 minutes is a long time if you got a 4 or 5-year-old headed towards water. Whereas if you got one right at your station, that may be saving a child in the community.
Or like you were saying, a senior in December,
Yeah.
because it wasn't, it was
It was
winter.
like 5 days.
Yeah, it was wicked cold. Yeah, yeah. What do you think, Dave?
Well, I like the idea of it for sure. I'm just curious about, the introduction of that and the expense, midway through the year. How are we funding that?
How would we fund it?
I don't know. We honestly, we're not sure how we're going to fund anything right now because we don't have a current free cash number, which we need to get because we have a policy and we funded quite a bit out of free cash last year. And there was an unexpected $135,000 hit to free cash or to the budget, which we thought was going to get rolled back in. Snow and ice at the point where we were funding, we knew we had extra money in snow and ice. Snow and ice was used. So there's no money or little money rolling back into free cash. I don't know how we're going to fund any of this, frankly. So I'm just saying that we should get it on there. You can always pass over it. But once this warrant closes,
It can't go on.
you can't. And if you're gonna go forward with fundraising, and maybe that's part of it is we want to do this dog and we're gonna fundraise, but yada, yada. If you're gonna get a dog and you're gonna do fundraising, I thought it should be brought up on the fall town warrant. I don't know how any of this funding is gonna happen, and I'm not sure what the support's gonna be for funding some of these articles because of our concern about free cash. And we won't have that information for a little bit. So,
I think it's worth taking a risk and putting it on the warrant personally.
And you can pull it if you need to.
Right. If FinCom says we don't have $23,000 or $26,000, then we pull it. And then we don't have to risk a fail. But this is a dog town. I mean, I have a hard time believing the town won't support a canine myself.
Even made fundraise.
Well, gosh, we fundraise for everything else.
We'll add it back into the one.
Good.
All right.
okay, so I have one more point I'm going to make, and this is actually taking my fin cap off. I'm sorry. On the regional dispatch sense of the meeting, you're doing a sense of the meeting versus taking a straight up vote. And here's the reality of it. If the meeting says, yes, we want to regionalize, but regionalization doesn't happen, then we go against the sense of the meeting. But if the sense of the meeting is no, but then you're going to regionalize anyway, I just don't know why it's a sense of the meeting, not just a straight up vote. I mean, it's just because it's,
Would a straight up vote have financial implications though that we're not prepared to address? Maybe that's why.
So my understanding is, so I guess what I want to hear then is, and as a citizen, maybe a little bit as a FinCom person, we are not looking to do this regionalization till next fiscal year. Is that correct?
No, that's not correct.
Okay,
We're looking
so,
into it January 1st.
okay,
Let's
so,
say though, the reason this is on as a sensitive meeting is it's on here at all because of the discussion you and I had. And maybe I misunderstood you. I thought you were suggesting, you said a number of times, take it to town meeting, and I heard you. I put it on there, and I thought we talked about a sense of the meeting.
no, well, here's the thing. If you do a sense of the meeting and they say no, and you're ready to, it should, in the past, it's been a vote of town meeting. It's not been a sense of the meeting.
I don't think it has to go to town meeting at all. And I've said that right along. This is a select board vote.
It is.
It is.
And they can do whatever they'd like.
Yeah.
In the past, this has always gone in front of town meeting. It's been voted down 2 or 3 times at
That's a
town
good
meeting.
reason not to take it to town meeting. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
No, unfortunately, your adage does not bode well. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
so, I just,
All right, well, then to that end, does this board need to give some guidance then and vote on whether, discuss and possibly vote on whether we support regional dispatch or not? Like maybe we just cut to the chase.
those are my comments.
But we'll leave it on the warrant for now and we can talk about it some more.
Yeah,
Can we change
always-
the wording?
You can always change the wording,
Wording.
just leave regional dispatch and then just figure out whether it's a vote or a sensitive meeting.
Okay.
Because technically you can reopen the warrant, do whatever and close it up until the day it goes to print.
So what if I just strike the word sensitive meeting right now and then just, leave it on the regional dispatch and just whatever kind of a vote it is? We figured that out along the way.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, yeah, I'm okay with that.
And then the other thing is we'll add in the canine.
Good.
Yeah. Okay,
Otherwise, that's what we have for a warrant.
all righty, ready.
I'll move to inform all boards, committees, commissions, and the public at large that the 2023 fall town meeting is now closed for the submission of articles and citizen petitions on the date of August 20th, 2023.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, passes unanimously. Okay, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting, not to reconvene in open session. It is 10:02 PM.
Second.
What are you laughing at down there?
Down with the journey.
Oh. What?
Are we not gonna go into executive session? Are we?
Right, yeah, we are.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but then you do it next. We don't we
No,
close.
once you take that vote, the meeting's adjourned.
All
Effectively.
So we just-
right, we gotta work on our codes. We have to work on our codes.
So what's it?
I thought we adjourn and then move into executive session, but we do it
I should have
opposite.
written in the adjourn regular meeting and move into executive.
I make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting.
It's my fault.
I'm gonna figure that, I'm gonna get this process down. I'm out of practice.
I just thought it was just a.
Yeah.
No.
It's okay. I'm like, we're gonna get this, Cal. We're gonna get this. All right, I make a motion to, I'm gonna amend your motion.
This one we passed.
What?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Right. I make a motion to adjourn the regular meeting, not to reconvene in open session. It is now 8. No, it's not 8 o'clock. That was so Freudian. What does that say? 10:03
10:03 PM.
PM.
So.
Don't do this.
No?
Take up the first one, which
So
is,
I'll move to adjourn into executive session and not to reconvene in open session for the purposes of discussing strategy of effective collective bargaining for MGL chapter 30A, section 21A, 3, police union, and possibly to conduct collective bargaining sessions for MGL chapter 30A, section 21A 2, the police union, and to review and or approve the release of executive session minutes of 4/10/23, 5/24/23, 7/24/23, and to note that discussion in open session would be detrimental to the bargaining position of the board.
Second that.
Very good. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
That's a roll call.
Oh, roll call vote. I'll get this eventually. Okay, let's start at the end. Wes,
That's
Dave,
Karen and I,
Priya,
Sundaram, aye.
and Hilberg guy. You gotta figure, I've had, I don't know how many years in ZBA, we have to do this. Oh, it's process. All right, see you over there. Back it up and get